Okay, it looks like we are ready. So I'll call this meeting of the West Linn-Wilsonville School Board of Directors to order. And Ms. Douglas, will you please call roll?
Certainly. Kelly Sloop. Lewis Taylor.
Present.
Chelsea King.
Present.
Christy Thompson.
Here.
Kirsten Wyatt.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to start with our district communications, our student reports, and I am so excited we have students here in person. So we will start with, is Michelle Quinn here? Oh, there she is. Okay, great.
Sure.
Shooting things first and then come back. Yeah, sorry, I missed that. Okay, great, thanks.
Good evening, school board members. Last month, we celebrated the fall season where we had the opportunity to try fresh homemade apple cider and pumpkin donuts. We carved pumpkins and crew, and we all ended up making jack-o'-lanterns with different expressions. Some of us took our pumpkins home, while others chose to keep them in the hub to make the hub seem more festive. Art Tech students have been encouraged to join Wilsonville High School clubs that have started meeting over the past month. And I'm happy to say that a portion of our students have joined everything from drama club to book club and even the bowling team. In first period crew, we have been encouraging team building in the form of playing games, having meaningful conversations that include our hopes and dreams for the future, and getting to know more about each other. Over the course of the past month, I feel that we have become a big group of friends that can trust each other and have fun together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michelle. And Lucinda Fine from West Linn.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lucinda, and I'm the West Linn High School Student Body President. Today, I just wanted to share a few things. Over the past month, we've celebrated Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and with that, we had a Breast Cancer Awareness Week, where we dedicated every day of the week to pink and just representing and responding to breast cancer awareness. We raised $1,435 for Breast Friends, which is a local breast cancer organization, and we raised that money by putting jars in the library. We did a $1 day in classrooms, and then we had a pink out football game where we also had lots of money donated. So that was super exciting. And then I wanted to share a story from a class that I had over the past month that I thought you guys would like to hear. Todd Jones is my history teacher. He's on the West Linn City Council. He's an awesome man. But we were doing a mock trial simulation, and it was the first time in over a year and a half where every single student in my class was really engaged. They were eager to learn. And I could tell that everybody was smiling under their mask. It was so fun to be in class. And I even talked to Mr. Jones about it after, about how grateful I was that we had the opportunity to participate in the simulation, even just in a normal history level class. It wasn't even AP. It was just really awesome to see kids so eager to learn and so passionate about what we were doing. And I hadn't seen that in a super long time. So I thought y'all would like to hear that story. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lucinda. And Miguel Tejeda from Wilsonville High School.
School board and Dr. Ludwig. Yeah, so a lot has happened at Wilsonville this month. I did not know where to begin when I was making this slide, but let's start off with what I first did, which was the band, choir, and orchestra concert. We had them spread out throughout the week, and they were all successful, and it was just so good for like the arts to be performing again. Last year we had like a makeshift concert that was a little rough, but this year it just was so nice to sing in harmony again. And then we're football champions this weekend. We played Canby on Friday and we were victorious, and it was just so exciting. There was such a big thrill, and there were so many students that showed up because we encouraged a lot of like student involvement. And then as a lot of you guys know, November 1st is like early action slash restrictive early action like deadlines and stuff. And so a lot of my fellow classmates have been applying to college by today, and it's just been a stressful, hectic week. But we're lucky to have wonderful staff that have helped us edit essays, like revise, and then just get out all those letters of recommendation. And then the last thing we had was a fall festival, which was on Saturday, which was sponsored by Link Crew. This year, we're making Link Crew more involved with students than just freshman orientation. So we invited them to come through on Saturday, and then we had like 40 freshmen show up, which was not a lot, but it was a good start. And we hope to keep expanding as the quarters move along. And thank you for your guys' time.
You, Miguel. Okay, I missed something. You were going to stop me right before the students went, and I said I'd come back. So is this a good time to come back?
Sure. I would like to add to our agenda under board business a discussion and possible decision to make a calendar adjustment for November 12th as a non-instructional day. Was thinking we could just put it at the end as the final item for us to discuss tonight. Sorry, I'm making a motion to make that agenda change.
Okay, so we have Director Wyatt moving to add an item to the agenda around a calendar change. And I do believe I need to ask for a second. I have Superintendent looking at me.
Well, you just need 2 board members to add an agenda item. So if you have 2 interested board members, I hear 1. If you have 2, then you can go ahead and just place it on the agenda and then get to that topic when you get there.
Yes.
Is there a second person who's
Yeah,
gonna?
that's what I'm asking.
I'll second it.
Okay, great. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, very good. So we'll move on to recognitions, and we have Ms. Lauren Grigsby, the Director of Student Services.
Good evening. Well, I have the distinct pleasure tonight to share with you about a group of dedicated staff members that are integral to the work that we do in West Linn-Wilsonville. So this slide just demonstrates some of the areas of the professional expertise of our school psychologists. Our school psychologists are a small but mighty group. We have 7 fabulous, deep professionals who are committed to supporting and bolstering new professionals in the field, as well as the work that they grow and learn in every single day. Together, they support and lift the work and experience of 2 school psychologist interns. And it is just an honor to share with you and our community some of the great work that this team of professionals does. This slide just indicates 5 of the areas that they lean into. And as much as it's fun to look at this slide, I really want you to see them. So hold on to these pieces and we can head to that next slide. So every day, school psychologists wrap around student outcomes. They work to understand the ways that students learn best to support teams in living into creating school settings that promote and support academic outcomes. Whether it be data analysis through our MAP assessment, progress monitoring, curriculum-based measures, or panorama data, this team is honing into this information to support educators in individualizing instruction and interventions for students. I'm going to share a little bit in this of examples of some of our fabulous team. So Farnoosh Semi, who recently defended her dissertation, uses data analysis and culturally responsive strategies to provide consultation to families, teachers, and administrators. This past year, she worked collaboratively with her colleagues, including our school counselor, to use school-wide data to drive interventions and support. It's just one example of academic support outcomes that this team supports. Our school psychs support positive behavior and mental health as well. They support communication and social skills, promote problem solving, anger management and conflict resolution, and reinforce coping skills and resilience. Mike Miller, one of our school psychs, is part of a team that implements Sources of Strength, which is an evidence-based practice suicide prevention program. It's designed to harness the power of peer social networks to change unhealthy norms and culture, ultimately preventing suicide, bullying, and substance abuse. This program mobilizes a group of diverse and powerful peer leaders to spread messages of hope, help, and strength throughout the school and community. This certainly exemplifies the promotion of positive behavior and mental health in our community. Our team also supports students who experience disabilities in meaningful, it's a meaningful component of the school psychologist work. Often, one might think about a school psychologist in the context of a special education evaluation or process. And this work extends being thought partners in the work. One of our brand newest school psychologists, Jody DiMichelli, who joined West Linn-Wilsonville community just this past month, she's already joined her school team, including paraeducators, learning specialists, speech language pathologists, OTs, PTs, to come together and think deeply about individual students, to share their expertise together, develop shared understanding, and really hone into plans that create consistency and commitment throughout the day. Our school psychologists facilitate behavior support plans, partner around circles of support, train team members on crisis prevention, and step into wrapping around students and teams with unwavering care. They also lean in to create safe, positive school climates. Our school psychologists work to support school connectedness through school climate, promote positive discipline, and promote our 7 components of inclusive and equitable learning communities, including deep work on restorative practices. One of our school psychologists, Kelsey Lissman, shares that building a relationship with a student, shared an experience of building a relationship with a student through an assessment process. It allowed her to be a trusted adult with that student and help the student reframe their self-talk, promote a growth mindset. Here's what she says. The student helped me understand how impactful our relationships with students we work with are. Even just a few words we say in passing or how we greet students in the morning matter. And I would hope this student learned from me ways in which to be a good friend. I also hope the student learned that we're not defined by the mistakes that we make, but rather by how we own up to them and move forward. Kelsey's belief in this student, coupled with her strong relationship and social emotional skills and implementation of restorative practices, exemplifies our team's role in supporting safe, positive school climates. Lastly, I'll hit on the concept of that our team really leans into strengthening family and school partnerships. This team builds relationships and care with families to strengthen that family-school partnership. Andrea Ramos, one of our school psychs, is proud to have been a part of developing and supporting our strong early childhood evaluation center. This opportunity allowed her to be a part of the growth and success of our district's youngest children and their families. Another school psychologist, Erin Pelton, shares that her personal mission is to support parents in fully actualizing their incredibly important roles as team members and partners. She notes that over the past few years, our learning communities have not been defined or restricted to the school fence lines. Our kitchens have been classrooms, our living spaces have been learning spaces. She hopes that while our understanding of what education looks like has been challenged, what has always been true is now unmistakably clear. We are all the learning community. We are all invaluable members of students' teams, and our partnerships are critical to each student's success. As the week of November 8th approaches, please join me in celebrating this dynamic group of school psychologists who lean in every day to support our community in so many ways. I'm going to close by sharing the words of one of our school psychs, Jen Steinmetz. This work would not be possible without the care that is consistently reflected in our community and work culture. Thank you for celebrating this team with us.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brigsby, for sharing that, those moves and introducing those people. And I just want to also express on behalf of the board our gratitude, and I'll open the floor if anybody else wants to speak. It looks like the superintendent would like to. But yes, to the boundaries of schools changing the past 18 months and really us recognizing the importance of partnerships, and family being one key partnership. And I know anecdotally from listening to parents how important these services are to the well-being of the family and to the success of the student. So thank you to the whole team of psychologists.
I'd just like to add, I again echo Chair King's sentiments and thank you, Director Brigsby, for just such a complete and descriptive narrative of all the work that our school psychologists do. And I know years ago, the role of a school psychologist was pretty much in an office, and you did an evaluation with a student, gave a report, and then kind of went back to the office and queued up the next one. And that may still happen in some districts, but it has been a number of years that our team really felt that they could extend beyond that. They could see themselves as capacity builders, that when they know a bank of knowledge, how do they share that with administrators and teachers, and really think about what they discover about children through maybe an evaluative process. How does that really change what's happening in the classroom? And then see themselves as coaches, as partners in the work. You could see in the picture, they get right down on the floor with students. They cozy up next to, they know them well in the classroom, and they're eager to be more than just a person who does an evaluation and maybe leads a workshop here or there, to really being a partner and knowing families and students so deeply. So we're really fortunate to have school psychologists that have that type of mindset and want that type of role in the district. It's not true everywhere, but it certainly is true here. So just enormous gratitude to our professionals and for all that they do. So thank you for sharing about their work with us tonight, and we look forward to recognizing them next week during National School Psychologist Week.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the board and superintendent reports, and we'll start with Vice Chair Thompson.
You. I wanted to highlight two events that I attended this last month. And the first one, Lauren, I'm glad you're here. So I attended the Student Services Parent Collaboration Meeting that was on October 26th through Zoom, and it was led by Lauren, our Director of Special Education, as well as Stephanie Clausen, our Assistant Director of Special Education. It's my understanding that these parent collaborations, so correct me because I was taking notes really fast when I attended, they happen 4 times a year, and they're opportunities for our parents of our special needs students to get together, to collaborate with our district, to provide an ongoing venue for our parents of special needs students to collaborate again and continually improve the supports in the education of their students. Because providing an being an inclusive district is one of the hallmarks of our district. Now that we're somewhat settled back down into somewhat normal school, this is kind of one of those areas that I just want to press into and learn more about, especially because we are a district that other people come to take a look at. We've kind of paved the road thanks to Dr. Spencer Imes and as far as being an inclusive. So it's something that I wanted to learn more about. And sitting in on that parent collaboration was a great way to do that. Some of the things that were discussed, some amazing things that are happening. First of all, we have our adult transition services. We have 2 students in that program that are attending classes at Clackamas Community College because of a partnership that we have with them. They have the opportunity to take classes during the day, such as meal prep, maybe personal finance, health and wellness, and then several of them go to job placements or internships afterwards. We also have, and again, correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, our first ever inclusive preschool at Sunset Presbyterian. Sunset Primary School. That's, yeah. Sunset Primary School. That's what? Oh, it's at Stafford. Okay, thank you. I wrote down SPS without, so thank you for correcting me. And that's in conjunction with the Clackamas ESD. One of the goals that they are working toward is making our playgrounds inclusive. So that was something talked about. And then the other thing that what they talked about and discussed with parents was recovery services for our special needs students. And we talk about recovery for all of our students, but what does that look like for some of our special needs students? So those were some of the things I got to hear about. And Lauren and Stephanie, I just want to thank you that you're providing this opportunity for our parents to be a part of their students' learning, and just for your enthusiasm, your energy, and the passion that I got to witness during that meeting. So I'm glad that you're here tonight, and thank you for correcting me. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is I attended the Wilsonville Rotary. And again, just my desire to be more community minded too, and be in the community and partner with the community. And one of the things that I've talked about with a couple members, actually, they approached me was, how do we encourage volunteerism in our students? And I've talked a little bit with Dr. Ludwig about that. And I know just from personal experience at Wilsonville High School that we have the Interact Club, also our National Honor Society. And then there's a new club, Leaders for Wilsonville, and they're all focused on serving the community. But then my other question, and kind of an ongoing question that I have as a board member, is how do we encourage all of our students that maybe aren't a part of those specific clubs to be volunteer minded, and who can we partner with, and how do we do that? And you know, one thing that kind of crossed my mind is I know we give out a biliteracy seal. You know, is there some sort of acknowledgement we can make at a graduation that shows this student has completed X number of volunteer hours in our community? And I don't know, I'm just thinking and kind of pushing that out there that I know all of us in this room and all of us up here know the value of volunteering. That's what we are, as volunteers. And that not only does it give to your community, but it gives back to you. And so just starting to think through what can we do to encourage that in our students. So that is it. Thank you.
All right, Director Taylor.
I'll be brief. I had a good time walking through the charter school, which being in this community now for nearly 18 years, I had no understanding of what our charter school was and meant to this district. So actually getting to walk through, meet the staff, meet the students, watch the way that community thrives was a really, really eye-opening time for me. I think that one of the things that I loved about it was the open environment that the kids are exposed to. So when we talk about building curriculum to the edges, right? That talented and gifted child, or that child that may need a little more help, it was nice to see that if a kid wanted to be pressed or wanted to try something that was a little more advanced, and they could sit from a fifth grade class with a seventh grade class and be able to continue to be engaged or be pushed so that they wouldn't get bored. And so the admissions process for that, I had no concept of how that worked, and got a better understanding of what that looked like for the community in the lottery system that is used there. In my mind, I had always thought that it was only this kind of little school that was set up for only those who could get in, but it's not that at all. So I think it was able to demystify some of the things that I had thought, and you know, for being here that long. And I think it's an amazing tool, the way that we integrate that particular charter school in with the district, how it's supported, shared services. And I think that's real unique compared to what other charter schools may be looking like throughout the state. So I was fascinated, and to watch how the kids interacted and played on the playground, how the staff supported them, the open learning environment, it was fascinating. So, and it seemed like it was one big community. And so that was very, very eye-opening for me, and I'm looking forward to doing more walkthroughs. And thank you for providing us with a platform to be able to actually know what's going on inside the doors of these schools, because I think it's important as board members and being able to give feedback back to the community. So the only other thing that I'd mention is that I spent some time sitting with community members, and I had a really good meeting with a gentleman over at Willamette Coffee House, and we got to sit there for about a little over an hour and just hear his feedback, concerns, things that a lot of the community has had concerns about, and just being able to have that open dialogue. We didn't agree on a lot of different things, but we had a really nice conversation, and we worked together to see how I could support some of his ideologies, and some of the things I was able to communicate out as to what we're doing as a district, what we're doing to try to, you know, help create more understanding for some of the things that maybe the community thinks is going on inside the district. So it was nice just to sit down and have a constructive conversation with someone who maybe we didn't align on everything, but we really both had the same end goal in mind, which was care for our children. And so that was something that we were able to agree upon. And I hope that people understand that we are accessible and we are open to hearing ways that we can be better as a district. Three of us are new, two of us are seasoned. And so I think it's a really neat opportunity to engage people in the right way. So that's what I had. And I had a really nice time in both. Thank you for the time.
Director Sloop.
Yes, I have been busy with some training sessions. There's kind of a learning curve as a new board member. So learning about the financial budget, about the bond levy and the facilities, as well as culturally responsive training and social studies. I have scheduled my 3 school tours. So I have 2 this week, Stafford and Athey. And then next week is Cedar Oak. And I'm looking forward to that one because that's where I went to grades 1 through 4. And I'm sure when I go there, everything's going to look a lot smaller. I have met with 3 different groups of parents over the last couple of weeks, just as Lewis has done. Willamette Coffee House seems to be a big favorite. Just listening to them and then directing them to speak with a teacher or principal. And more or less just trying to make myself available to listen to their concerns, or they even just wanted to know what is a listening session and or what do we have coming up. And that is all.
Director Wyatt.
So I have been serving as the board liaison on a communications effort. The school district has contracted with the Clackamas County Education Service District, or the ESD, in a third-party review of communications practices. And so the Clackamas ESD will be contacting all families by email, and the email I think is in inboxes, as we speak. It went out today. And it includes a survey link for families and community members to provide your input on district level communications. And I feel like we've heard, from folks, especially during COVID, as we think about the new ways that we engage our community. And so this is going to be a great way to get some feedback on how we can really step up our communications and engagement work. And again, this is just for district level communications. It's not for school level communications, but I just want to encourage everybody to take the survey. There'll also be some interviews conducted, and I'm just beyond pleased that we're going to have this kind of third-party analysis to help us become even better at communicating and engaging our families. Thank you.
All right, I'll share a few of my highlights from the past month. Definitely a highlight was the Oregon School Boards Association did a roundtable for all the chairs of different school boards across the state. And it was just a chance for us to come together for an hour and talk over video conferencing. And it was nice to hear board chairs talk about what's going on in their district. Everything from this roundtable was right before the October 18th deadline for all the staff to be vaccinated. And so even just hearing everything from, the school district that has 100 students to the school district that has, 20,000 students, and different ways of, they were handling that. And perhaps the most impactful thing I heard there was one particular chair of a district that's actually within our conference talk about how their students are experiencing traveling for athletic events. So that was just something I had been noticing as I travel with teams and watch their events, and also watch other teams coming into our district and observing the experience of the students. So being able to hear from a board chair about that thing that was happening was just really nice. So I appreciate Oregon School Boards Association for bringing us together, and it'll be a monthly thing that I'll keep doing. I did get a chance to do an interview for the communication audit with the Clackamas Education Services District. And so that was fun. I mean, who else wants to sit and listen to me talk about my experience of being a board member for an hour? So that was just like a gift, that poor woman having to listen to me go on and on forever, but it was fun. Look forward to later in this evening talking about the listening sessions that Director Thompson and I will be proposing. And another highlight was the Clackamas Community College had a celebration for their Indigenous Peoples Day, and they read a land acknowledgement, and they had some drumming and some different speakers from Indigenous populations. And so that was just a really moving event to attend, related to our education communities. And then, of course, I have to just say, like, yay, Wilsonville football teams, the conference champs. It was so fun to be at Friday Night Lights, small town in Canby, and to prevail, and just to see the sportsmanship on the field. Where else can you put a bunch of, teenagers out and like give them a high intensity and high physical contact, but they'll still help each other up and pat each other on the back or other various body parts. So that was super fun. And the volleyball too is doing really great. So those are always highlights, just watching our young people compete like that. Thank you. All right, the superintendent.
Thank you, Chair King. So I think we're queuing up a PowerPoint here. And we'll go straight to the next slide. While it is November 1st, it's really late October that I'm just kind of sharing some highlights. So again, you probably heard schools are wrapping up their fun runs, doing those safely. A number of schools couldn't go to the pumpkin patch for the field trip, but brought the pumpkin patch to school. So really a creative and safe way for parents to recognize some of these traditions and just finding a creative way to still celebrate. And so there were a lot of pumpkin patches made in school playgrounds, and kids were out looking for their pumpkin on the playground. And Crest has been busy and able to invite some students out there for some hands-on learning. You also heard Michelle Quinn speak about the apple cider press is up and going at Crest. And so it's been a great learning. You can see the picture there of some students sitting at the bench doing some leaf rubbing. Of course, athletic events, this is that time of year. I've been able to go to a number of soccer games and football games, volleyball games on Saturday. And our students are just performing incredibly well. And I was telling, I think, Director Thompson, you have this full season and you try to get to as many of these events as possible. And then when the kids keep winning, you're just going to more and more of the season. It just keeps going on and on, but it's a good thing too. And of course, the sportsmanship is outstanding, and I'm really proud of our student athletes. You also heard tonight that we've got orchestra and choir performing live. So appreciate parents being in the audience, abiding by those face mask mandates so that we can have a live audience. It just makes such a difference for our students. So really appreciate our parents showing up and being in the audience. Unified soccer is back up and has started, and had a game, I think last week. So again, this is where students who maybe on an IEP, who often maybe don't compete on an OSAA team, but are athletes themselves, get to join. It's often a boys and girls team together, and they compete. And this is the season for unified soccer. And it's just great to see our students engaging together in that. So you can see the picture on the bottom. It was a little bit rainy and cloudy, but you can see them kind of jumping and cheering and having a great time. So our schools really are humming along into the fall, and it's incredibly busy. The next slide, we want to talk about school and classroom visits. So now that we've had the launch into school and we've had curriculum nights, we now focus into getting into classrooms ourselves as administrators, providing feedback to teachers and students. And this is the time when you get to do your school visits. So I know as Director Wyatt has in front of her that multicolored sheet, you each have your 3 or 4 schools that you'll be visiting over the next month and a half. It starts this week. And you'll meet with the principal and whichever team that they have with you to just share their school work plans and where they are with their learning together, some of what they've learned from their data that they're going to focus on in terms of making some adjustments to instruction or where they're going to focus this year. And then each of the assistant superintendents that supervise that level will also be joining you on those visits. I won't be able to get to all 16, but I am committed to getting to one school that each of you have selected. So that'll be 5 visits I'll do with you, and then perhaps a few extra. That way I can be there with each of you and thinking about supporting your leadership and in the work as well. So thank you for doing that. I know that's, again, it's a unique thing to our district. that we have board members who are so eager to be in classrooms and in schools and to dive deeply into that work. So thank you so much. On the next slide, just want to give you a tiny little update about our Family Empowerment Center. As you know, this is our second year with our center and with Maria Horton leading that work. But a couple of things we've been doing over the last month is really thinking again about what's the purpose of this empowerment center. And we keep evolving that purpose as it kind of grows and develops. And through partnership with Dr. Jennifer Spencer-Imes, who is Maria's supervisor, we've been organizing some visits. So you can see in the bottom right-hand picture there, that was a visit that also Andrew Kilstrom attended with Maria and Jennifer to Beaverton Resource Center. So what does it look like when there's a community resource center, but this one's a nonprofit? Are there some things that we could learn and try? And then also a visit to the North Clackamas Wichita Center, which is a community center. That one is more of a school-based model. And so the idea being, we certainly have our community that we attend to, the needs, but what can we learn from others? So we've been doing some visits and then doing some surveys also of parents. What would they like to see the Family Empowerment Center lean into in terms of service and support? And out of an earlier survey we had done and some questioning came, I think I texted all of you a picture of a technology class that we provided for a group of parents who really wanted to get more proficient at, when a teacher sends me all these links or something to, access Canvas or Parent View, how do I even do that? And most of our interested parents in that class were parents who were multilingual or English wasn't the first language. So there's another layer of complexity for them. So we had great instructors there working with parents and a student intern. So we do have a student intern now working at the Family Empowerment Center and happens to be bilingual. And so was at the technology class and is also coming several times, I believe during the week, twice during the week. Do we have two interns or one? Two, okay. So it's great to see again, this center that we just started with an idea and where can it go? And I think our greatest challenge will be how to also make sure we can scale in a way that we can sustain it because there's so many great ideas out there. So I just want to thank again, Jennifer Spencer-Imes and Andrew Kilstrom and Maria for really taking a lot of the lead on evolving this idea. And I want to thank the staff at Wilsonville High School and Principal Schmidt for making it such a great place to house the Family Empowerment Center for the time being. We are excited, speaking of service to the community, that we are able to host another vaccination clinic. This time, the sponsors of that will be Clackamas County Public Health Department. If you recall, last spring, it was the getaflushot.com folks who sponsored that in terms of the medical technical part. So Clackamas County Public Health is providing all the nurses, the scheduling system, the forms, and have asked us to provide a venue so that they can begin to think about clinics in a variety of spaces. It will be at Meridian Creek Middle School. And you can see the dates up there, November 13th and December 4th, so that folks can get that first and second. And there will be vaccinations for those who have not had one already. So meaning ages 12 plus, new, and possibly by that time, we hope that we can also do some for ages 5 through 11. As we know, there's progress being made about that approval. There will not be booster shots at this clinic. So this is new vaccinations for those who have not been vaccinated before. We do need community volunteers. And so, we know that several of you are connected to community groups, whether it's the alliances or Rotaries or maybe some faith-based groups. We know that maybe folks watching the board meeting tonight could be thinking about if that's a fit or a match for a community group that they're involved in, to reach out to our district office. And we have a contact person that we will let you know soon. I'm seeing the nod. We're trying to think about where to streamline it to just one person so we don't have mixed messaging or multiple people taking volunteers' names. So we'll get that out pretty soon as to who to email or call when we have some volunteers. The public health department really wants this to be a community endeavor and not make it feel like it has to be school district staff that have to do all the work on this. So they really encourage that if you have community partners and community groups that can help. What they have found is it really increases the success, especially of the messaging that this is available. So then it's not just the school district that's getting the messaging out. And again, I want to thank Dr. Jennifer Spencer-Imes for really working with the team at Clackamas County Public Health to make this happen. And just glad that we have some of these large venues for these types of events. And then the last thing I just want to share with you is a little bit about our district equity action plan. If you recall, at our last board meeting, I showed you kind of a visual of those 3 wheels. And I said there's several plans in motion that you're going to begin to hear about as board members. There's the continuous improvement plan, the SIP, the district improvement plan, and I shared about that. And then I said alongside that, you have school work plans. So what are the district goals? And then what are goals within each school? And those are the ones you're going to hear over the next few weeks as you visit. You'll hear, there'll be 16 of those. You'll hear about a few and go deeply. And then the third wheel in that functioning system is the district equity action plan. And in that plan, it reflects what's going on in the district, but also encourages some of the work to go on in the district and in schools. And we're in the middle of working through the draft. There's several groups that are working on it. A teacher group called the District Equity Team that has representatives from each school and various positions in school. And then there's a parent group that works with me also on the equity action plan. And in our plan, we have 4 commitments. And the next slide just kind of shows you, I won't read through them, but these are the broad, long commitments. These are multi-year commitments. In order to see them actualized, you really have to be in them a long time. It's about our own learning. It's about making sure that our classrooms have culturally responsive curriculum and practices so everyone feels welcome and included in the classroom and in the curriculum. It's about promoting diversity in our staff so that we represent the community and our student body. And that we also work with our community because we know that learning isn't siloed. Our children are a part of a community bigger than just when they go to school. Where do they go on the weekends and before and after school? And how do they feel that all of us are working together towards their well-being? So where are there areas that we partner with the community? And then we've added a new section in our equity action plan. So the next slide, Curtis, thank you. And this has been prompted by a number of groups asking, and I remember Director Taylor asking me this question. You know, this is amazing. I look at all these strategies, I'm reading the equity action plan. What are you noticing? How are we making a difference? And mostly our data around that shows up back in our SIP plan or in our school work plans. We haven't really brought it to this document. It's out there, but we haven't used this document as a collective place. And we thought maybe we should do that because it could be that someone only ever reads this wheel or this third component and doesn't dip into the others. And so how do we bring some of that data back into this document to our community around how do we know if we're making a difference with these 4 commitments? So you'll see in the draft, well, first of all, before we get into that, there's a book that Assistant Superintendent Barb Soyson has been bringing to us in some groups called Street Data. And it's a way of looking at data that's out there that can show you if you're making a difference. And whether it's satellite data, that's pretty large and big, so you can think about state data that tells us about our work in the district. Or if you think about a little closer view of a map, what's our localized data in our region or in our neighborhood? And then if you want to really get granular and you want to zero all the way down, what does it look like on a street level? If you can follow a student or a pair of students, do we have data that discrete? And so that's that idea of how do you kind of look at the purpose of these 3 types of data or level of data and what's in our equity plan, what's in school work plans, and what's in our SIP, our continuous improvement plan of our district, that has examples of this type of data. So with that context in mind, We've pulled out 3 areas, next slide, Curtis, to share in the equity action plan. And the reason I'm also taking some time to talk through this tonight is because you're going into schools in the next few weeks. And so I'm just giving you some context and maybe some ideas for some look-fors that you might have and some questions you could bring to the principals at your schools. So first, we might ask, how are we making a difference academically? And principals might share with you our MAP data, which is interim data. They might share with you about report cards or unit data. They also might share, how do we compare compared to other districts in Oregon? And one of the areas that in the equity action plan, we're going to take a real satellite faraway view is around these indicators that the state looks at, that Oregon looks at every district. So again, this is a satellite view, it's a big picture. They look at K-2 attendees, they look at 3rd grade language arts, so they take that state assessment 3rd grade. They look at 8th grade mathematics, 9th grade on track, and all that means is which 9th graders have completed 6 credits by the end of their year. You need 24 to graduate, so that's 6 each year. And if you've passed at least 6, you're on track, right? You're not behind. So that's an indicator towards graduation. And then the state pulls data of every school district around graduation. So they see these as indicator data that they dip into, as well as at the very end, did you get students to that finish line? Did they graduate? And that's a big satellite picture of how we can see, are we making a difference in our district, and how do we compare? And how are we doing year to year if we're committed to making a difference? And how do we compare to the state of Oregon? So you can see already, we've got started with 2017, 18. We could go further back, but we've just pulled the last 4 years here. The blank squares is because we don't have that data because of COVID. So if you recall, the state made testing optional, and a lot of families opted for their children not to take a state assessment during that, the start of COVID in spring of 2020 and then last year. So we don't really have good, reliable data when your data set is not as robust and it's optional. But we can look and say, there's some gaps here if we look at groups of students. And because this is an equity plan and we're looking at disparities among groups, we did pull out 3 of our racial and ethnic groups and want to see, how are we doing and how are we attending? And is there a gap? And if we are being purposeful, would we start to see some closure there? So I'm not going to go deep into this, but you'll have a copy of that draft. And when it's finished, you'll have the finalized version in front of you. And it could be that you want to ask some questions in your schools around, what do you do with your data, your state data at Rosemont or at Wilsonville High School? And where are you seeing some disparities and how are you attending to that? Okay. The next slide, another area that we want to pull out around data and take a look at for equity action plan is social emotional outcomes. In other words, how are we doing around inclusion or belonging? When students say, I'm doing well academically, but I'm not doing so well, maybe social emotionally. Do I feel a part of the school? Do I feel included? Is it a place I want to be every day? And we know that can impact also how they do academically, so vice versa. And we have a data tool called Panorama. We started it for the first time last year, so we only have last year's data to start with, but we will use it every year. And that way we can get some longitudinal data, we can start to compare. There are other school districts that use this tool in Oregon as well as across the nation. So we can get national comparison data, which is really helpful. Because sometimes you might wonder, gosh, we see a percentage here, but is that good? Is it not so good? If we kind of can compare nationally, we get an idea. So this is a self-reporting survey, and students just answer questions about whether they feel mostly a certain way or not very much a certain way, and it's based on their experience, and it's in a number of categories: teacher-student relationships, school climate, sense of belonging. So there's a group of categories, and they answer questions in each. I've just pulled out a few here with some sample questions. How respectful is your teacher towards you? Quite a bit. Extremely respectful, not so much, and then students might respond. And then you can see this is a survey for 3rd grade through 12th grade, doesn't go lower than that. And you can see up at the top percentages, and these are in the favorable category, of our 3rd through 5th graders. So you can get, again, this is a little more satellite because you're getting a district look. But each school has access to their own school data. So think about your school visits now. Again, this is why I'm pulling this out. As you get familiar with this survey tool, you may want to ask a question. Tell me about your panorama survey. Was there an area of school climate or sense of belonging or teacher-student relationship that affirmed the good work that you feel made you really proud of what your students are experiencing? And was there an area that your staff is going to take a look at and maybe make some strategic moves in order to affect some change? Because this data can be satellite, but it also has the capacity to go down to a map level where it tells you how school is doing. It also gets all the way down to the street level, where you can see how a student or a small group of students is doing. And so, Curtis, if you go to the next slide, here's an example of getting a little bit more map and street level. What if we looked at our 6th through 12th graders around that question, how many of your teachers are respectful to you? And we wanted to see our racial or ethnicity groupings. Now you can also look at it gender-wise, or our students who are served on an IEP, or our students in poverty, how are they answering that question? And you can see the percentages of favorable. And then there's another question. If you walked into class upset, how concerned would your teacher be? Quite concerned, extremely concerned, not so concerned. And this is the percentage of favorable. So quite or extremely. Again, those same groupings. Okay. And you might say, wow, there's more of a difference there than there was in the other question. And did you, so you could go into a school and say, now this is again district level, but you could ask when you do your school visits, is there anything in your panorama survey that you're attending to as a school staff that you've drilled into and you're thinking about your students' social, emotional well-being and their sense of belonging? And were there some groups that you have wonders about, or that was there any data that surprised you? Okay. And then the next slide, Curtis. So I won't go long, but here's another example. A question, and then how did each group answer? Now, the interesting thing, like for this one, is sense of belonging. Remember, this was taken during COVID. So there's a very unique context to this. Students already told us that they were learning at home or online. They didn't feel connected in a lot of ways, but we gave the survey anyway, and staff took it seriously last year and said, we then need to figure out, how do you do community when you don't see your students? How do you build community and sense of belonging in a breakout room through Zoom? So they didn't discredit the data, they just worked with what it was telling them and tried to see if they could make creative adjustments. What you can see, even though the favorable was 46% for our district, we scored in the 70th percentile nationally. So 50th means we're average, we're right there with everybody else, but we were in the 70th percentile. So it really shows that a lot of school districts in the nation scored even less in this area because a lot of students were struggling last year through COVID. And to me, there's a real positive upside to this, that even through all that and the sense of belonging, we were doing far better than most high schools because of some of the structures we had put in place. It'll be interesting this year with students back in person to see how they respond in this survey. Okay.
Was that taken? Oh, sorry. Did they take the survey when we were distance learning?
Yeah, all of last year.
So not when
fall
we,
and spring.
it wasn't in or when they were in hybrid?
Yes. So we did a survey in the fall when they were completely CDL, and then
Okay.
in the spring when they were many of our students were hybrid, but some also were still at home in that kind of partial CDL, and then some online. So it varied where students were.
Okay.
Okay. So the third piece of data that we're pulling out for our equity action plan is around our staff representation. So remember I shared with you, there's 4 commitments in the equity action plan, and one of them is how we're diversifying our staff. So how are we doing with diversifying our staff? And there's 2 data points here that bring some comparison. In the 2017-2018 year, that's the top set of rows. What percentage of our students and staff, and there you can see some race ethnicity groups. How does that compare to the state of Oregon? That's in the gray. And if we're really making efforts, how does it compare to the state? But then what does it look like in the year 2019, 2020? Have we made any moves? Have we gotten better? Are we starting to see that we're making efforts to diversify our staff, and then compared to the state? So this is actually only licensed. This does not include nutrition staff, custodial engineer staff, paraeducators. This is data we report to Oregon because that's the only data we have to then compare to the state. If we put all of our staff in licensed and classified, we wouldn't have a comparison group that the state collects. So for right now, we're just doing license. That means all classroom teachers, specialists, principals, assistant principals, anyone who has a certified teaching license that's in a licensed position. So you'll see these 3 groups of data in the equity action plan. It's a new piece we're including in there. And the reason I'm taking a little bit longer on this is because I know you're queued up to go into schools next week. And I thought those first 2 might be of interest to you around some questions you could ask, or when principals share with you and they start to use terms like, we learned in our panorama survey, now you'd have a little bit more context for that. Okay. And then lastly about the plan, just so when you get it, you'll see in those 4 commitments, a lot of strategies and actions for this year. You'll hear about you'll see some connection to the school work plans with the equity action plan. We are giving the panorama survey again this year. You'll see that we are committed to continuing our practice around restorative practices with our leaders as well as our teachers, that we have an equity summit coming up. And we're really thrilled with the work that we did around renewing and reviewing our SRO program, how it's actualizing into this year. And already you can see on the top left, there's a great picture there of Officer Johnson and social worker Cheryl Wilson connecting and collaborating around their partnership together, which we didn't have before. But now that we have a social worker in each high school, it's really moved it to another level around strengthening our wraparound support for students. And that's all I have. That was plenty.
Thank you, Superintendent Ludwig. We will move on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
I motion that we pass the consent agenda.
Okay, Director Thompson with the motion. Do we have a second? All right, Director Taylor with the second. All right, Ms. Douglas, will you call the vote?
Kelly Sloop. Liz Taylor,
Aye.
Chelsea King,
Aye.
Christy Thompson,
Aye.
Kirsten Wyatt.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, great. And we'll move on to the communications and comments from the audience. And we do have a few folks signed up. So hello, everybody. Welcome. Glad you're here. I'm just going to read a few guidelines that we follow. And thank you for being here, first of all, and for patiently sitting through all the first orders of business that we go through. Your voice is important to us. Hopefully you've signed up here if you do want to give public comment. And this is a time for us to hear you and collect information that you're giving us. It's not really a time for us to engage in dialogue. So if you see us sitting quietly, if we appear stoic, those are our listening faces, and we're not going to engage in, we're not going to answer questions right now. We're just listening. If you do want us to respond in some way, provide information back to you, just provide your contact information to us, and then we can get back to you. This is definitely not a time to single out a particular individual, whether that be a student or a district employee. We do have a separate complaint process. If you have issue with a particular individual, then we'd like to point you to the district complaint process, which is accessible on our website. Definitely, this is a time to address the board and not a larger audience. So please know that we are your audience, and it's not an opportunity to speak to a broader audience. It's an opportunity to speak to us as your board. And keep your comments to 3 minutes. It's actually a really effective length of time. If you need more time, feel free to submit materials to us in writing or draft an email of some sort. We have 45 minutes for public comments. We should have no problem with that tonight. We do ask that you put your address here and that you state your address when you come up to the podium. And that is because we really are interested in knowing, hearing from our constituents and knowing if folks reside in our district or not. And I think that that's everything. So with that, I think that the first person who signed up, and it says that they're just observing, but I just want to confirm so I don't go past Laura Cox. Okay. So I think I can move forward. Then we have Cheryl Dorr. I remember this because you taught me last time.
My name is Cheryl Dorr. I live at 19237 Suncrest Drive, West Linn, Oregon. I want to thank you. I really, believe it or not, have enjoyed listening to what I would normally have thought would be a really boring evening, but I took pictures and I appreciate it's been really good. Thank you. I wanted to let you know that my husband and I receive the emails from our grandchildren's principals every week with all the important things that are going on and happening. I don't know how I got on their list, but I really appreciate them, and especially Debbie Briggs-Christman at Rosemont. Her emails are always very positive and joyful and happy, and it's just really nice to have that kind of communication. So I wanted you to know that the principals are really doing a great job communicating with all of us. We need this to remind us that we have caring, hardworking administrators and teachers that love our kids, and they're doing the best that they can in a still challenging time. I talked to many parents, and they have all said their children are so happy to be back in school. So we thank you. You have made this happen. We thank you. My husband and I went to the Rosemont end of the year cross-country meet at the big Wilsonville Park. And I couldn't believe the hundreds and hundreds of kids and parents who come out to watch that, even though they only see their child for 3 minutes coming over the finish line. Across our country, some school districts have chosen to step into curriculum that has opened up the doors for division and controversy. We would strongly encourage you to keep on giving our children the excellent education that you have done all these years with our children and now our grandchildren. It's particularly important in light of the loss that took place last year at the height of the pandemic. A number of our kids are in catch-up mode in spite of all the noble efforts of the district. But thank you for encouraging your staff, your teachers, your schools to keep on working hard to give our kids what needs to be done, keeping the main thing the main thing. We thank you.
Bruce Wilson. Okay. John McCabe.
No, should I raise my height? This is, okay, this looks fine. Okay, thank you. John McCabe, 435 Michael Lane, Westland, Oregon, 97068. I'm going to talk about just a couple issues. I did speak to Adam Kren with the Oregon Department of Education. It was very concerning. Some of you received from me with the change of the board in July of 2021 that that is not being presented correctly tonight. Any amount, we have an increase coming in from the regular base property taxes, which shows up on this report that you'll be getting tonight. And any amount you get in more property taxes reduces how much you get from the state. So we are going to lose this year. In the report that you're getting today, it says 2.3 million. It's going to be over 4 million that we are going to lose this year. In addition, more than 100,000 of the local option will be going to Three Rivers School. All the years I was on the budget committee, I never knew that Three Rivers was giving local option money, but they are. So what is $4 million lost equal to? Whole CTE program in the future. We won't be able to fund it. So how can we talk about that we want CTE if we don't have the money to fund CTE? And it would behoove the public, because what we do know today from the reports that you'll be getting is that it says that the number of students is 9,111. But if I've read correctly from prior meetings, over 200 of those students are remote students, which means in the building, we have 9,000, less than 9,000 students. Or as what could be said is we're shrinking. And that's basically due to the drop of the birth rate since the Great Recession of 2008. It's not only happening here, it's happening nationwide. Which then brings into the question that I had is, when I see the land purchase of 20 acres, I know it's not going to be a 20-acre parking lot, but I think before you vote yes, you should know what it's going to be for. The public should know what it's going to be for. I'm on the board with the CPO, and as many of you that were just candidates here, you basically said that you were going to honor the 1993 Stafford Triangle Agreement. The purchase of this property without knowing what it's going to be is totally contrary to what you said you were going to do, and I hope you look at it that way and turn it down. Thank you.
Reina Hassan. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but also I know you wanted a photo, so I'm just announcing that I have consent to take your
Yes.
photo.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Reina Hassan. I'm at 11908 Southeast 56th Avenue. I'm over in Milwaukee. Yes, my name is Reina. I'm a mixed race mental health therapist, educator, and mom. And I'm here to talk with you tonight about a children's book and curriculum that I've just published. And as we know, thank you. As we know, there's a high need for sound social emotional curriculum right now, which is why I wrote the book. The book and curriculum have been reviewed and vetted by early education specialists, child therapists, and parents. The whole package is very scalable. It can be just a cute rhyming book about monsters for little kids. Thanks to the curriculum, it can be scaled up to offer more advanced teaching opportunities about those key social emotional skills like courage, compassion, and response flexibility. So I'm actually going to read the book to you. I think I said it's called I Love You Monster. That's the title. Also, it was printed down in Medford, so we supported the local economy. Oh, monster, dear monster, under my bed. Are you something to fear and dread? Or are you a teacher, a friend, and a guide to help me navigate my feelings inside? My hood is useful in so many ways, but not when it says, I hate you, go away. Monsters are only scary if we make them so, and only fight against us if we try and make them go. Instead, I can join my heart with my hands to remind myself that I understand. I can remember that I have a choice to speak with my heart. My heart has a voice. So here's what I'll do next time I believe that there's a monster out to get me. With my hands on my heart, I'll take a deep breath, check in with my body from my feet to my head. With a loving and courageous voice, I will say, I love you, monster. Will you come out and play? I've made us some cookies and midnight tea. Would you like to have a party with me? Or maybe you'd like to talk about the thoughts in our head, or wear silly hats and dance on the bed. Maybe you'll teach me to understand my fears, or help me to see the value of my tears. However we decide to spend our time, I'll call upon the wisdom inside. And with that special blend of compassion and curiosity, I can learn to love all the monsters that come to visit me. And then on the last page, there's a URL for parents and educators to download the curriculum from my website. I also believe this book is inclusive because I'm mixed race, as I mentioned. The child is depicted as mixed race and also gender neutral to be even more inclusive. So I have copies of the book, the curriculum, and some cards. Playfulmagpie.com is my website. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think that was everyone who came to speak. We will move on to general business of the board and start with Dr. Hughes, our Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. Tonight, I have 3 items that I would like to present it to you. The first one is a general funds updates. The second one is a budget committee vacancy. And last, a proposed budget calendar for fiscal year 22-23. In front of us is the update for financial summary of the general fund as of October 31st of 2021. This report laid out under the income statement, which means the first half of the report focused on the revenue, the second half focused on the expenditure, and it shows you the ending fund balance after revenue minus the expenditure. In the gray column, this is the adopted budget that board adopted in June of 2021. The adjusted columns is throughout the year, if we have any significant category that changing in the number, then I will come to board for approval with the resolution. For example, I came to board for the resolution on the pension bond, and when board approved that, I factor the number as a column to make it become the working budget. The blue column here is the year-end projection. This is the information on this column is information that we pay attention throughout the year, because this number based on the year-to-date expenditure plus any projection from now until June 30th that I project that we anticipate to receive or spend throughout the year. So with this, when you look at the revenue, there are 3 areas. The first one is the property tax. And the second one is the local option. And the last one is the state school fund. These are some go up, some go down, and I would like to explain it in detail. So this one's talking about the permanent property tax, local option tax, and bond. This information we received from Clackamas and Washington County on October 18. So under the adopted budget, we budget 76.3 million for these 3 categories. October 18, we received table 4A from the county, certified that under permanent tax, 42.3 million instead of 40.8 million, which is 1.5 million more than the adopted budget, or about 4%. Local option, we budget 10 million and it comes 10.9 million, with the 902,000 more than the adopted budget, or 9%. The bond, it came very close. It's only 897 less than what we asked for. So with that, the total local revenue from the permanent tax and local option will be 2.4 million higher than the adopted budget. And remember, like John mentioned, there is the indirect relationship between the local revenue and state school fund. So if the local revenue go up, then the state school fund go down, and vice versa. This one is the state school fund revenue. We have 4 columns here. The first one is the description. The ADMW stands for average daily membership weighted. And then the first column is the adopted budget that we adopted budget on June 3rd of 2021, based on the information that we have at that time. So we budget based on 10,897 ADMW, and each ADMW estimate to receive $9,164. So when we do the multiplication, 10,897 ADMW for the 9,164, we got estimate of 99.8 million, and then subtract by the local revenue. So in the adopted budget, I estimate that the district will receive an appropriate of 57.9 million. And then on June 24, this is the estimate information that we received from Oregon Department of Education, with the estimate of ADMW for 11,089. And then the revenue per ADMW is 9,164. So give us the total state school fund is 101.6 million. So minus local revenue estimate at that time 41.9 million. So Oregon Department of Education had the estimate for our school district around 59.7 million. This column right here is the information that we have as of October 18 of 2021. On that day, the head count that we have for ADMWs is 10,257. And based on the 9,164, give us 93.9 million. And then minus the local revenue, was it a 43.3 based on the table 4 that I received from the county, give us 50.5 million. And the last column, sorry for my misspelling here, the actual. So this is the actual information that we have for fiscal year 2021. ADMW, we have 10,537. And then the revenue for the ADMW is 9,164, give us 96.5 million. And take away the local revenue 43.3 equal 53.1 million. According to ODE, ODE indicate that they will use the highest number either for 2 years, 2021, 21, 22, whichever year that we have the highest ADMW, then they will apply that number. So if you look at the ADMW for fiscal year 2021 and the ADMW that we have as of October 18 of 2021, then obviously the 2021 we have higher number, so that ODE will use the highest number, which is 53.1 million. With that, the difference between 53.1 million and the adopted budget of 57.9 million is 4.8 million. And we also have the second quarter count, which is by the end of January. Cosette will share with me the information what is the ADMW that we have at that time. So at that time, if our ADMW is higher than the actual in 2021, then we hopeful to receive more revenue in the state school. So with that, you will see here why under property tax, we have 1.5 million more than the budget. And then under local option tax, 902,000 more. And under state school fund, we have 4.8 million less. So overall, we have 2.4 million increase in the local revenue, but we have 4.5 million estimate to reduce in revenue, state school fund. So if I add the two together, we look at 2.4 million reduced revenue. Under the expenditure, it still shows the saving from pension bond is 3.2 million. That is a report that I present to you in September. Under salary and benefits, there are some still movement information that I will report to you more in the month of September. So for this month, I only factor in the shift that 4.9 FTE shipping from bond 2009 due to the nature of the workload that we have for the bond at that time. So with that, as of October 31st, we looking into the estimate of 14.3 million or 10% of our ending fund balance. That's all I have for general fund updates. Do you have any question for me?
Thank you. I do have one question, primarily about this data around our decline in enrollment. It looks like about 3% nationwide, and that it's been not previously recorded to be that high in 2 decades, I think is what I read in your memo, if I'm recalling the information correctly. I have my assumptions about what to attribute that, but I'm wondering if in any of that data, if there's any reasoning given behind this market national trend.
Well, I can share you one data point, and that's the pandemic, because as soon as that hit, we had large numbers of families and students choose to find alternatives. And while we had our online program and some chose to do that, others have shared with us that they are choosing to homeschool or find a private school or some way to manage learning at home with how they can coordinate it as their family, but that they intend to come back once the pandemic subsides. And for some, it's about vaccination access. So we see our largest decline in our elementary schools. And that's a story that's shared across every school district in Oregon and nationally. So how long it takes for public schools to maybe resume that back is just a matter of, time to see, what families choose to do. But overnight to see such a drastic drop is about a phenomenon that occurred, and we know what occurred. It wasn't that, 600 people all of a sudden did something, dramatically different in terms of birth rate or a move. These were students that we had already and have communicated to us and to their principals when we've called and asked that this is a shift that's connected to the pandemic. Others have moved and others have moved in. So it does fluctuate. And I think we'll see in the winter and the spring what it continues to do. So that's one data point I would share.
And in the enrollment, the decline in the enrollment is we're not facing this alone. 197 school districts in Oregon are facing the same problem that we're facing. So that's why Oregon Department of Education requesting all of us submit the update enrollment data so they can run another information, updated information. Because the last one they have is based on the own information that when we submit the information back in December of school district in Oregon, hopeful that by September, when school resume, everyone will go back to school and the enrollment will rise. That they soon information will come up. Also, one more item that I would like to have board member pay attention to was the reason that we have this ending fund balance estimate in a positive way is because last year we received ESSER support. We have ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. Some of other school districts, they save that money so they can spend it for this year and could be next year. But our school district, because the amount that we receive is not really significant, but it's good enough. It's over, combined 3 ESSER is over 4 million. We already spent it all. So another point to pay attention is the total revenue here. If I take away the beginning fund balance, I only ask all of the revenue that we anticipate to receive for this year. It adds up to 111.9 million. And then if I ask all of the expenditure down here, it adds up to 117.7 million. So as you can see, without the healthy ending fund balance carry forward from last year, if we just focus on our revenue that anticipate to coming in and all of the expenditure that anticipate to spend, we don't have enough revenue to cover all of our current expenditure. So going forward, we have to come up with a strategy how to live within the revenue that we anticipate to receive. That up counting on the ending fund balance. Thank you.
Dr. Hughes, I do have one more question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you want to say something? Were you still going?
I'm good.
Okay. Just about the way state funding works in general, I'm hearing this in your report that as the local option or as local monies increase, then the money that we get from the state for our ADM decreases. Again, I just want to check my assumptions. I assume that if that money is not coming from the state to West Linn-Wilsonville School District because it's been adjusted because of our local, revenue, that money then goes back to the state and is then stays in the education system and is used for K-12 education in some fashion. Is that an accurate assumption, or what happens to that money if it's not coming to West Linn-Wilsonville?
Another it could be right. I need to verify that with ODE. But another assumption that another factor is other school districts might facing the decline in local revenue. So that's why the state school fund will go up. So because it depends on the location of each school district. some school districts, they in the location that not many taxpayers pay all of the tax on time. So they don't receive the local revenue in the amount that they request. Sometimes, some year in the past, we could request 40 million, but the county say you get 38 million. So that too. So the money that we get reduced in the state school fund will help other school districts who lost in the permanent local revenue.
It's a system that was set up to create equitability in the state. It used to be years ago, schools were funded locally, and you can imagine when you just are funded locally, the difference that would occur across the state depending on where that school district was in terms of tax base. Very wealthy, and then school district struggling. So when the state of Oregon moved to a state-funded system, it created an equitability that you would be funded based on how many students you had, a weighted system, and then a multiplier. And so, then they brought more equitability. So whatever you got from your local taxes, if you were a community that provided heavily with the local tax base towards education, the state didn't need to subsidize as much to make it to that equal funding. If your school district is in an area where there is not a lot of local tax base, then the state provides more of that funding so that everyone then receives the $9,164 per weighted student. Now we're all funded equitably. This is not to be confused with the local option bond that school districts are still allowed to pass, the local option levy. That's in addition to that. Now that can create, some would say, some more inequitabilities, but there's cap provisions in there, so it doesn't go overboard. That money in the local option levy comes fully to us when our taxpayers say we're willing to be taxed in addition for our district to receive some more funding, and that's how we fund our extra teachers. So does that help?
The next items I have is the budget committee vacancy and the proposed budget calendar fiscal year. So you can vote it separate, or you can combine that to do together. So for the budget committee vacancy, right now we have two positions that aspire, that is the position 1 and 4. So a little bit background about this. Board policy DBEA, the district budget committee consists of 5 members of board and 5 electors appointed by board as required by Oregon budget law. Term of the appointed member of the budget committees in the district that prepare an annual budget will be 3 years each, with appointment made so that at nearly at practicable, the term of 1/3 of the member expire each year. So board member will establish timeline and procedure for appointment of budget committee member. So the first one is Mr. Chris Nelson that expired June 30th, 2021. And the second position is Mrs. Kirsten Wyatt, expired June 30th, 2021. So after board member approve this, the district will announce the vacancy through the local newspaper, and we will. And the timeline is today, during this regular board meeting, we declare the budget committee position vacant. November 3rd, open position for application if you approve it. And then on November 30th, we close the application. And then December 6th, during the regular board meeting, then board member will have the opportunity to interview with the application. So with that, I'm seeking for the motion.
I'll move the board declares budget committee position number 1 and number 4 vacant for the purpose of seeking a replacement from the public to assist in the budget process.
Okay, Director Taylor has the motion.
I second.
Right, Director Thompson or Vice Chair Thompson with the second. Is there discussion? Okay, seeing none, will you please call the vote?
Kelly Sloop. Lewis Taylor.
Aye.
Chelsea King.
Aye.
Christy Thompson.
Aye.
Kirsten Wyatt.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last items, I have a proposed budget calendar for fiscal year 22-23. So this one is so this information is very much we have under the website for board member up there. The only items that I have in here is on March 16 and March 30th. This is for a work session if any new budget committee or board member would like to meet with me to understand more about the budget process and how to read the budget book, anything related to budget, we will schedule. So this March 16 and March 30, just here, but I'm willing and able to meet with any board member or any budget committee member at any day that work for you. So I'm looking for the approval on this one.
I move the board approves the budget calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, Director Taylor and Vice Chair Thompson with the second. Is there discussion? Okay, seeing none, please call the vote.
Kelly Sloop. Lewis Taylor.
Aye.
Chelsea King.
Aye.
Christy Thompson.
Aye.
Kirsten Wyatt.
Aye.
Thank you.
Here's. How's the board doing? Should we keep going? Or do we need a break? What's that? Sure, let's take a 5-minute recess. Okay, I'm going to call us back to order. All right, we will resume business with the Department of Operations, and we have Mr. Pat McGuff.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, can you hear me? Is that better? Okay, thank you. Tonight, you have before you a board resolution for the authorization to execute a purchase and sales agreement between the district and Marilyn L. Brock for real property located at 22170 Southwest Stafford, which right next door to this building. It's directly east of this building. The property consists of 21.3 acres located directly east of the administration building. The property has a single-family dwelling and associated accessory structures. Upon the execution of the sales agreement, the district will conduct due diligence activities, including level 1 environmental assessment as outlined in the purchase and sales agreement. The price for this property is $2,115,000 with an anticipated closing date on or before February 1st of 2022. This transaction has been in negotiation for literally years. Mrs. Brock is a former school teacher and is currently 84 years old, and she approached the district that she believed that her property, her farm that they have been on for all of this time would be best served to be in district possession with the adjacency to this building. The transaction has taken so long. COVID had a major impact. Her legal representation got ill during this time. And it prolonged the negotiations for almost a year. This is an accumulation of that, or a culmination of that negotiation that began with the previous board. They did give direction to staff to negotiate and bring forward a final purchase and sales agreement. So that's before you now. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Question about use of the property. You were gonna,
Chair King, do you want to entertain a motion and a second first and then discussion and questions, or do you want us to answer questions and then a motion? What order would you like to do that in?
Yeah, I think often we just take a casual approach and have discussion first, but according to Robert's rules, we should have a motion and a second on the table. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll come right back to that question. So let's see, I'm looking for language on a motion. I can make it if nobody else is.
I think I see
Do we
someone.
have
I
someone?
can make a motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Director Sloop.
So I make a motion, we accept resolution 21-06 to purchase the 2 tax lots described in the resolution 2021-06 for the sale price of $2.115 million.
All right, we got Director Sloop with the motion.
I'll second.
All right, Director Thompson with the second. All right, now discussion. Yeah.
yeah, I just had a question about use of the property. And did it come with any stipulations as to how it can be used, what it can be used for? And if not, what is the district's plan? Or if there is a plan, and how we plan to use that property to benefit the district and the community?
So county regulations around exclusive farm use is very restrictive and very limiting in what can be done with the property today. The adjacency of the property, we are allowed to adjust lot lines by up to 5% size, or approximately 1 acre, a little over an acre. The lot line could be adjusted to this property. What that does is give this property room to now expand. When we did the renovation and addition on this building with the 2008 bond, we built it to capacity. There is simply no available expansion in this building. Should the district grow, the option would be to either relocate departments or relocate the entire administration building. So there would be no option for expansion of this building. By doing that and capturing a parking area, this building can expand into the existing parking area. The remaining land would just be in a land bank. Should the zoning property change sometime in the future, 40, 50 years, perhaps it could be a school site then. If not, if the future boards determine that it's not of value at that time, they could, of course, sell the property then. But this district has a long history of buying property well into the future, trying to look far out into whatever growth and expansion may occur. It doesn't always occur. We have bought property in locations, even in Wilsonville, that turned out were not useful to the district and were sold. That help?
That helps a lot. And so if I'm understanding you correctly, we're gaining 5% for a possible expansion of this, then the remaining 95% will stay as farmland.
That's
until
correct.
something else changes within the county.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
What about access to the barn that's on the property?
I'm sorry.
The
Oh, the
barn?
barn?
Yeah.
Well, that is a very delicate question with the county about occupancy of that barn. We are trying to navigate that to where perhaps that could be converted into a casual meeting center, perhaps an extension of Crest. We don't quite know what the uses are allowable under county regulations today. As if I had to give a hard and fast answer, the answer would be we could do nothing but keep it as a barn. But we are currently talking with county planners about how we could perhaps get some conditional use for that barn.
And only one other question on the barn. If you're using the barn for, I guess this might be something you don't know the answer to, for school activities, say if it's a fundraiser for the elementary school, where a lot of times PTSAs have to go rent spaces to find a place to do gatherings and do fundraising events, is that something that possibly could be used for, since we own it? I guess we would be the owner at that point in time.
Well, it all has to do with the use. The county does not distinguish who owns it. It is the type of use. And currently, as a barn, it is not a meeting space. Would have to get a conditional use from the county to convert it into a meeting space. Should that be done, any kind of meeting with students or staff or community would be allowable. But that would be a condition that the county would have to approve on.
Even if it's non-revenue producing?
That's correct.
Okay.
Just as a meeting space, it's not conditioned for that yet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Wanted to make a quick comment. I feel like one of the tremendous strengths of the district has been planning ahead for the future. Sometimes a future that is so far ahead, it's hard to picture. And at the last long range planning committee meeting, I felt like a theme that really emerged was the investment that our predecessors made 20, 30 years ago are paying off in our ability to build world-class facilities for our kids. And so I just want to thank you for planning ahead, thinking ahead, and being so mindful that we could make a choice today that could save us a lot of money down the road. So thank you for that.
I would also just like to make a few comments, piggybacking on that. The land banking has been a strategic fiscal move that we've made for decades that has served us well as we've continued to grow. And I also have served on the Long Range Planning Committee as the liaison and have heard Long Range Planning Committee members express an interest in continuing these types of moves. As you mentioned, the board previous to this board did have an executive session where we were told that the property owner was interested and had approached the district about a sale. And we indicated an interest, and we did not deliberate toward any kind of decision. And so that's what we're doing now. And so I thank you for bringing that out, that, we have arrived at, this being able to take a move, make a decision. And I'm pleased that we get to make a decision on a piece of land like this that is so strategically situated. To have land like this that is adjacent to land that we already own is, that's an uncommon situation for us to come across. And typically we take advantage when those situations come, and that has served us well. So it's a smart location with being adjacent to our facilities. And also it's a safety issue with Stafford and the amount of cars. I'm sorry if you already mentioned that, but it's definitely something I think worth mentioning, having staff parked all over Stafford on gravel ditches and walking into, here, and that's only going to continue. So I appreciate the fact that the district was viewed as a trusted partner by the owners of this land, and that they've been, that we've all been patient through these kind of crazy times with sicknesses and everything being delayed and bogged down. So I'll be supporting the purchase of this land. Comments or questions? Okay, if not, we can call the vote.
I'm excited. Kelly Sloop,
Aye.
Liz Taylor,
Aye.
Chelsea King,
Aye.
Christy Thompson,
Aye.
Kirsten Wyatt. Thank you.
Could I just make a comment, Chair King? I want to thank Pat McGuff for long, patient process here, just so thoughtful and respectful too of the situation that occurred, that slowed things down, but really, again, a great example of the partnership that we have with our neighbor next door. I also want to formally thank Marilyn Brock for this opportunity that she has given the district. And as Pat mentioned, she's a teacher at heart, and it was her first place that she wanted to go was to really think about, could the district use this first before anything else personal for her. So grateful to her and her years of being a great neighbor with us, and that certainly the district will do well with this gift. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo that too. Thank you so much, Pat, for always just honoring the relationship, even as you negotiate the business side as well. So thank you for doing that. For a moment, I forgot it was me who was going to move us forward. All right, so we are going to move on to, this is the Board of Directors Community Outreach section of the agenda. So that takes us to the school board listening sessions. And this document that we're proposing to you comes from the work session that feels like yesterday, but I guess it was a couple of weeks ago that we talked about how we could implement what I believe to be the first ever board listening sessions, or at least the first in 8 to 10 years since I've been active with the district. So we have a document that Vice Chair Thompson and I collaborated on, and there's some cut and paste from the document that we all collaborated on together during our work session. For example, the purpose is really the language that we all agreed upon. And what Vice Chair Thompson and I, should I just keep running with this and then you can fill it in, is that we would just plan one listening session for now and implement it. And then we can return and see what did we learn from it and then plan what the next one would look like, rather than she and I trying to plan like 3 listening sessions, just she and I. So we came up with this idea of keeping it to 1 hour, and it being the chair and the vice chair to begin, and doing it over video conferencing. We talked at length about in-person or video conferencing. We arrived here partly because of the fact that no one will have to wear a mask, and we can all just be seen without needing to wear masks in public. We wouldn't have to try to secure a public space and the commuting and the inconvenience with that. And so decided to go with video conferencing for this time. And we were hoping that the district staff may help us run the technology portion of it, even though this is really a recognition that this is a school board effort and that this isn't, the board's work. But if possible to have someone run the tech, then we would ask if the district could supply that. But that the district staff would not be there to lead the discussion or to interject or to present or anything like that, just to basically support us in doing that. The role of the board member is lifted just straight from the language we came up with during our work session. Basically, just that it's really a chance for us to seek to understand and to listen and to be accessible. And obviously, we will not have a quorum or deliberate toward a decision, so it's not going to be a typical public meeting. Let's see, what else? We also would ask the district support the board in helping us get the information out. As people expressed during the work session, we would want to be sure that we were targeted in some of our invitations so that we could make sure that we have a representative group showing up. And so in whatever ways, whether this be school-specific listservs, or sometimes there's group-specific listservs, or PTAs, but just to help us get the word out and invite people. And then finally, I think the most exciting part of this is that we wanted to really frame the discussion. So we don't want to be too prescriptive as to shut down conversation, but also that if we go in way too broad, that we might end up with topics that actually have that are totally outside the purview of a school board member. And so in the spirit of starting with something really manageable and starting with something where we can be successful, we decided to frame it as, have a conversation with your school board members about what is the role and purpose of school boards. I mean, anybody who's watching the news right now knows that school boards are in the news. And so, what is it that we do here? What is our role? What's our purpose? What do we not do? And just have that chance for two-way dialogue couched in a topic like that. What else needs to be said, Vice Chair Thompson?
I think you covered it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the only other thing then would be the date that we landed on would be, and sometimes this is like surprisingly the hardest thing is the scheduling. But we landed on, what date did we land on? I know I put it in the document.
It's right at the top. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Wednesday night, we talked about time and decided 7 o'clock just made sense for busy families, but that in the future for the next listening session, maybe it's at 9:30 a.m. or noon or some other kind of time. So yeah, I think I just would love to hear from fellow board members and if this is hitting the spot or not.
I think it's a good start. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings that I would have even had until becoming a board member about what the role of the board is within the community, how we engage parents, how we engage students, how we engage staff. And I had 14 years of board experience in higher education, which is completely different than K-12. And although a lot of the jargon peanut butters over, what doesn't peanut butter over is that in higher education, you're focused on the student and the student only, and you don't have to deal with parents, right? Which is a blessing. But in K-12, you have to deal with that. And so that is something that you have to adapt to. And that those requests and those needs are different, and we have to make ourselves available to address those needs, concerns, and at least hear them. So I think this is a good stepping stone because we do live in a community where there's a lot of voices, some positive, some not so positive, but I think there's learning on both sides of the equation when you're listening to both of it, all of it. And so as tough as some of the messages might be, we need to hear it and we need to figure out how we can serve the community in all aspects. So I like this as a first step. And I would hope that the community would view it as a board that is trying to work towards building bridges and mending fences as opposed to what we see on TV and what our community should represent versus what we see being represented. So I'm excited about it. I hope that it's a tool that we all use to be constructive and all grow from. So thank you for, challenging and coming up with it as a board. And I'm excited to see what the community has to say, wrong, right, or indifferent. I look forward to those conversations.
I guess one thing that I would add on is that Chair King and I see this as a starting place. You have to start somewhere. And so will every listening session look like this? Absolutely not. There'll be different topics. Like she said, we will consider different times of the day based on community members' availability. You'll see different board members leading, but we felt like this was a good place to start. And in some ways too, just, it'll serve as a little bit of education for our community, because I know that there have been frustrations during the pandemic, and sometimes we don't want our community members wasting their precious time. We want to teach them how do you advocate for your students, for your family. However, and sometimes your board is not where you go first. Maybe it's someone else who's making decisions. And so we feel like not only is an opportunity to hear from you, but to also do some education so that then when we get down the road with other listening sessions, our community members understand a little bit better our role, and then those can be even more effective because our community members are better educated on what the board does. And I would reiterate what Director Taylor said. I was educated myself when I came on the board of what my role is and what my role isn't, and what is in my lane and what is not in my lane. So, and I hope that people will come to this listening session, and come share your thoughts, and you'll hear a little bit from Chair King and I first, and then, we will just be open to listening. So we look forward to it.
I want to thank you for putting this together. I think it's a great place to start. And the only question or comment I had was based on the success of the Family Empowerment Center session that was held in Spanish. Could we find a way to have translation services available for this, either closed captioning or in another way, just to make sure that we're able, as we do this outreach, to get a cross section of our school community, that we can address that language issue as well.
Yes, and I think that that's actually a kind of a feature in the video conferencing that we can use. That someone can be present. Dr. Ludwig and I had this conversation, and she spoke to it.
Yes, our Director of Communications, Andrew Kielstrom, works to secure. It's actually a person you hired for that evening to do interpretation. And then they're the ones that type down below in that closed caption. And then, so they're just translating. And then we could have a staff member, if need be, do interpretation if in that moment. So we just need plenty of time ahead to know to secure that. And this looks like we've got about over 2 weeks. So I'm seeing a nod that we could staff that.
Thank you for being willing to support the board's effort with this, and to the board for being flexible. And we can come back and see what we learned and change the next one accordingly. So I think I'm seeing nods and hearing buy-ins. So I think we're a go. Yeah, so Christy and I will work on that more with people who can help us. Okay. We're moving forward to the draft letter to students. And I think this is a good place for me to hand it over to you, Director Wyatt.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for entertaining my request for us to discuss this and do this. As I had mentioned at the October 4th meeting, I have really been heartbroken over some of the headlines coming out of public schools in our region. And I just keep thinking about our kids and how hard that must be on them. And so I really want us to issue a joint statement showing our students and sharing how much we care about them. And we're really affirming that every student belongs and is welcomed just as they are in our district. I just think it's such an important reminder for our kids. I really also think that doing this as a unified board also sends a message that, we're committed at the position that we hold all the way through all of the amazing policies and procedures we have in our schools to create a welcoming environment for all of our students. And honestly, I've just really greatly enjoyed my first month on the school board. I've loved seeing how dedicated everyone is to their director roles. And I really think sharing a joint message about student safety and student support shows how committed we are to working productively for our kids. So the draft letter is in the agenda packet. And I just want to thank you for considering this request. I would welcome any ideas and feedback And just as a quick overview, I really wanted to make sure that this was, directly sent to our students with this message that all students belong. And then backing that up with some of the policies that we have that support diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And then some of the policies and procedures and programs, whether it's a school resource officer program or curriculum selection that shows that we are welcoming all students in our district. So again, happy to take any of your ideas and feedback. And again, thank you for this opportunity to propose this for us as a team.
I'm wondering, Director Wyatt, I don't believe this was in the packet, Ms. Douglas. Was it in?
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
okay.
It's in board book.
I was just wondering if it
Yes,
hadn't gotten in there in time, if you wanted to read the letter aloud. I don't know if folks at home have the content. It's up to you. I didn't know.
I'm happy to, if you'd like.
Holly, is that a different letter that you held up?
Yes. So in board book, last Thursday, what Director Wyatt submitted, we uploaded to board book, which is here. And then today, Chair King asked me to please print. And so I printed them off and she has, Chair King has them.
Yeah, so
Copy.
we have the letter up here, which is in board book. And so we can certainly read the letter, or I think we all have access to it and can see it here. And then because Director Wyatt and I were collaborating, there were a couple different drafts that we ended up with. And so I did ask for a printing. Although when I look very closely at this, there's basically, I can just tell you what the differences are. I'd be happy to give you a copy, but there's, one primary difference. And that just makes this letter that's printed shorter. But the value that is added, I think, with the language there, I can just tell you what it is. It's where the school board also supports these efforts, and it gives particular moves that the school board has supported. That's the primary difference with this shorter letter. It's just that those are all deleted. Other than that, there's a couple of stylistic things that are different. So we can certainly work with this letter here, and it might be less complicated, or I can give you a copy of a printed shorter draft.
Everyone has the printed shorter draft.
We don't.
No.
No, I'd love to see a
Thought you
copy
said
of
you gave it to.
of both of them.
Oh, let's.
I have them. There was a little bit of confusion because of the collaboration with Google Docs and different versions. And so we were just going to move forward with this one, but we can certainly share this. Do you want to just look at this one, or do you want a printed copy of a shorter version?
I can look at it on board.
Yeah, it's on board book also, or there's another copy here that just has a deleted section. Do you want?
But there are two, so there's a shorter letter and a longer one, correct?
Right. Well, it's the second set of bullets, and just so you know, the reason I think it's important to include those is to show the action behind the intent. And most all of these I think were approved or put into practice before our time, but I do think it shows that the district is committed to doing the work to show that all students belong. I wouldn't want our students to think that we say nice things but don't follow up on them, which is why I would like to include them.
So if I may, maybe I'll jump in and just, I can even point to just the primary differences between the shorter version and the longer version, and the edits that I would like to see in the longer version, which I think will move forward really nicely. And thank you, Director Wyatt, for initiating this. I will say that in my experience with traveling about to other schools and watching students from other schools come into our schools for athletics, that I do notice a difference in demographics with our students than other schools. And when I was at the OSBA board chair roundtable, there was a chair of a board for a district in our conference that has a very different demographic makeup of our student body, who stated that she knows that their students have trepidation when they travel outside of their school district, that when they travel to other school districts, they wonder, are they just as welcome? Are they just as secure as they are when they're at home in their home gyms? And that really moved me. And this roundtable came after Director Wyatt had talked about desiring this letter to be written. And when I heard that board chair speak, I thought, we want our students to know that they are welcome in West Linn-Wilsonville schools, just like we want our students to know that they are also safe and welcome when they travel to other school districts. And so that's why I love the spirit of this letter being for our students to say, you are all welcome, and that we will uphold that in West Linn-Wilsonville. The couple edits that were in this other draft of the letter that I would like to see in a final version. I like, Director Wyatt, what you're saying about keeping those bulleted points to show that there's action being taken behind policies. I think that that's really wise, and I support that staying. There's just a couple stylistic things. For example, I would like to see the names of the signers be at the end of the letter. So I just move that down. And then the first line just begins with the 5 of us represent. And I think because we're moving the names to the end of the letter, then that first sentence needs to provide a slight introduction. And so it would say something like the 5 directors on the West Linn-Wilsonville School Board of Education. That's it. So it just basically says that there are, 5 directors on the West Linn-Wilsonville School Board, of education. And then you can leave the represent, leave that whole, so that doesn't go away. It just says the 5 directors instead of us. So, oh, are you my editor? Okay. You're not my editor.
It's not a Google Doc.
I saw someone highlight something. I thought, oh, someone's editing. So anyways, we don't have to necessarily like edit it live action, but that's the biggest thing, like just move that. And then there was one other thing, and it had to do with the language on the bullet points, because I wrote those, and I struggled a bit when I wrote them, because of this idea of what is the board role and what's administration role. And so some of these verbs at the beginning, I didn't develop a district-wide equity plan. I support a district-wide equity plan. And so I would like to change that word from developing to supporting, because I think it more accurately captures the role of the board. And then similarly with it says updating the school resource officer program. And I'm really proud of the work we did. I hear such good things about our SROs right now. And I feel like that program review was really good. But honestly, I didn't update the SRO program. I approved it. So approving an updated SRO program, I just feel like I feel more in integrity with my role as a school board member. So I would ask that we change those things, and then otherwise I'm happy. So at this point, does anybody else want to change any other language? You like it? Do you support it? Where are you landing with this?
I don't see any changes. So,
Director Taylor, did you look?
Right.
Did you have? Oh.
no, I don't see anything that I'd like to add.
Microphone on.
No, nothing coming out of the Taylor camp.
So I had a couple just thoughts as I read through it. And again, to me, I feel like as a board member, our highest responsibility is to make sure that our students feel welcome and valued in our school, every single student, whether they're in our district or they're students coming from other districts. So to me, that is kind of our most important job. And so completely appreciate, and I like the edits that you mentioned because just reminds people what the school board makes policy, but we didn't develop the district-wide equity plan, but we do support it. So thank you for those edits. A couple other thoughts that I had, and just wondering, when I look at paragraph 2, I'm not sure which letter I should look at. So I'll look at the one in board book. When it refers to headlines and news stories, my thought is that we speak as our board and for our district, and we don't worry about what's going on out there. To me, when we make a statement that's based on what's happening in other districts, does that weaken our statement and make it sound like because of what's happening now we've decided to do this? Or do we as a board believe this regardless of what happens in other districts? And for me, I believe this regardless. I think it's important to say, we would start with, instead of like many of you seeing the headlines, we want to once again strongly affirm that creating welcoming learning environments. I feel like there's some caution to following what other boards are doing and commenting on what other boards are doing. As we all know, sitting in public office, sometimes I feel like people don't always understand what goes on outside in other, and I just don't want to start having, start down a path of commenting on what's happening in other areas. And then what if something happens, but we don't comment on it? And how does that look when we don't comment? I hope that I'm making that's making sense, that I would rather just take out that first sentence and a half and say, this is what we're doing as a board, and this is what we believe. So that is just kind of one of my suggestions. Another one is if you go down into the third paragraph where it talks about promoting student success and disrupting systems of racism and oppression. I feel like our district, in line with our district board goal number 1, which talks about disrupting systems of racism. And I noticed, Chelsea, in your letter, it just said disrupting systems of racism. And I'm wondering if you had stopped it there just to be more in line with what our board goals are. And so I would suggest adopting that portion of the letter that just stops at the district, if that's amenable to other people, just so again, it's more in line with the goal that we've made as a district. So those are just kind of two of my edits.
Thank you for those edits. I think those are great. And part of me wanted to provide context for why we were doing this, but I hear your point about this is something we would do even if a nearby school district wasn't making the choices that they have. So I think if we wanted to strike that and start it with, we want to affirm that creating welcoming learning environments, I think that's great. And absolutely, I should have copied the district goal word for word. So obviously we can strike out that word as well. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the idea of setting context and also the idea of ensuring that we're sharing our own message. So I think unless anybody's objecting, what we're agreeing to is to strike that first sentence of the second paragraph and just beginning that paragraph with "we want to once again affirm," and then changing the language to capture disrupting systems of racism, and then crossing out "and oppression." I'm saying these things so I can capture them, or you or I can capture them. Yeah. And I think Director Sloop, did you want to say something?
So, and then I may have missed the conversation, or what for the publication and the tidings and the spokesman, besides the email, if it was to let the students know, what was the reasoning for the tidings and the spokesman? for publication?
I would like this to be sent to all of our students, but then to keep the larger community informed about this value that we're sharing. And to also, make sure that as we think about, what community engagement looks like, we don't just assume that the people who currently have kids in school are receiving these messages. And so thought that sharing it out in the tidings and the spokesman would be a way to reach a larger audience to convey what we're doing in our district and in our schools, especially, related to visitors to our districts, and how we're protecting our kids when they're traveling as well. So just really thinking about it more from a, how do we let the community know that we are really focused on our kids and their safety?
Okay, any further discussion?
Will we see another revised letter after this?
That's a good question. Probably my preference would be to just acknowledge the edits that are being made right now, and I could even read it as the edits, or you could read it as the edits exist, so that we could just take final action and not have to
Oh, well,
share it again, or do you want to see
I don't know
it
that,
in
well,
final version?
I guess my hesitancy is that if this is going to be going to publication and not just to our families, and my name is on it, that I would want to see the final copy before it goes to the paper.
Mm-hmm.
I can make the
So-
edits this evening and send it.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I
Okay.
just,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about a lot of scratches right now, and
Yeah,
so
yeah, that sounds
I'm in
good.
support of the letter. I just would like to see the final version that is going to go out to our full community. So when I'm walking down the street, I can speak to something from a educated standpoint and not get tripped up on, oh, I didn't see that bullet point, or didn't know that changed.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
That's all. And not to draw it out or take more time, but
No, it's a
Just one
really
last-
reasonable request. So I think Director Wyatt's saying that you could make the edits this evening, and then we can send it back out. And probably what we'll just do is, like, if we don't hear any opposition, then it's good. But if someone thinks like no, then they can stop it.
correct.
Okay,
And I'll read it.
okay.
Thank you.
Right. I don't think we have to take action on this. I think we just look around the table and see, like, if folks feel okay with it and it's in alignment with what you would like to say, then you can give us a nod. And Superintendent Ludwig, before we do that, did you want to say something?
No, I just think because all 5 board members' names is going to be on it, you'll just want to really, I think, confirm that each person feels comfortable being a signatory on this letter and have a real clear sense of that.
Yeah, for sure.
One thought I have, and this is just based on Chair King, the comments that you made about being at the board chair meeting and how the board chair of another district have perceived that their kids felt when coming into our schools. So I noticed that we talked about putting it in the tidings, putting it in the Wilsonville spokesman, emailing it to listserv. Just a wondering about how we make sure that those students realize in our other districts that might be coming, that they feel safe and welcome. And I don't know how to, I'm just throwing that out there so that when students from other districts come, that they know that is.
Yeah,
That's the desire of the board.
I
So-
appreciate that. I feel like we need to put it on TikTok so
Yeah.
we can reach them. Can someone dance this? Can someone do a dance for 30 seconds that communicates this? That's my primary motivator, is to speak to those young people. And so I would like to maybe send this to the chairs of other school boards in our conferences, for example, like Northwest Oregon Conference and Three Rivers Conference, like other schools, or something like that, to get it into the hands of students. Yeah, so they know when they come to Linn-Wilsonville schools, they're welcome. Yeah, Dr. Ludwig.
I think this has a real powerful potential when it does get finalized and you've signed off and it's available on listserv for our principals to see where this letter could also be very helpful and find ways to lift elements of it in their listserv, to reference it often. And it becomes a document that then takes on, just exponential significance because it becomes a document that we anchor and we refer to. Could be a document that we end up attaching to an equity plan, for example, or a principal could use, prior to an event and send a copy to that principal of that school. So the opportunities are really limitless in terms of where this message could go. So I appreciate all of you working on this and the message that it sends.
Definitely not the first time that the board has drafted a letter like this. We have done this in the past when times have gotten, when we felt like we needed to respond to what was going on in the national dialogue. And so it's nice to have this board's names and message on a letter that we have, made a move like this in the past as well with a different flavor, but yeah, same message. So thanks for bringing this forward. And I just need like eye contact and a nod from folks. So I know that you're okay with having your name on it.
I'm fine with that. I just wanted, like Dr. Love would say, for it to get, if it's for the student, then the student needs to get it. And I think that, if I'm trying to adapt to this new world of hug and make everybody feel good, right? That's not the world I come from. So that takes a little more for me to like, not just slap you on the back and say, just step up and you're going to be all right, right? So understanding that the environment is different. People are suffering a little bit different mentally than maybe an old school mentality, where it's just brush yourself off and move on, right? Different world, different time. I just want to make sure that it reaches the people that we want it to reach, because I know that this letter will not be read by my daughter. And I know that my daughter is not regularly checking her email unless it is something from her teacher that has to do with an assignment. Now, I do think there is a group of students who might be actively engaged in, running for student body president, and those people that have that poli-sci type of interest, of course, they're going to read this and, go and do their school thing. And, and some small group of students will say, yes, 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 thank you. And then you're going to have athletes, the majority of them that aren't going to see it at all. I mean, wrong, right, or indifferent. And so I just want to be careful that if it's for the kids, that we find a way to get it in the kids' hands, right? And if it's for something else, then just say that, right? And I'm okay with that too, but just let me understand if it's for the kids or if it's for us to take a stance against just what's going on in our state or in our community or neighboring communities. And I'm okay either way. I just need to know. So that's but I like the letter. It's coming from a place of care. It's trying to show people that we want everybody to feel good. And I think that's good. So I'm okay with my name being on it because it's for the right things, but I just want to make sure that if it's for getting to the students, that it makes it there.
I think that's a great point around, we always have to think of that do we just send something out and then just check the box that we met it was a compliance or we did our due diligence, but how we work with this letter, I think, is what makes it come alive. Is it just rhetoric on paper, or do students really believe that they are welcome, safe, and supported by the actions that they hear from a board, not just in this letter, but month by month by month? Do you live into, this document that you're sending out? And we do have students who pay attention to what happened to these meetings. They show up. They hear about it one way or the other about decisions we're making at a district level. There's also an opportunity for us to take this kind of level to some of our student groups and read it aloud and say, what does this mean to you? How would you want a board and a district to live into this rhetoric so that it feels genuine and feels as if it's really something you're experiencing? And earlier on, I showed you that panorama survey. That's real data of students telling us, you know, they write it and they let us know their experience about what's really happening in school. So how do we hold something like that data in the panorama survey alongside a letter like this, alongside an equity action plan, a school work plan, you know, these board goals, and see, are we really living into this day to day for all students? So I could see some of our student groups having this letter read to them and then seeing, you know, what did this mean for you? And what else do you need from us? So there's potential, there's a lot of potential in this with where we take it. To your point exactly, how do we make sure that students who really need to hear this too have the opportunity to hear it?
I agree with what you're saying, and I'd be willing to do that work. If it meant going to the students' assemblies and standing in front of, 700 kids and reading that letter, I'd take that because I know it reached the audience I wanted it to reach. I can tell you that if you're on an outside district coming in, no letter you put out is going to change the feeling of someone coming into our school district. West Linn is known for, whether you like it or not, being West Linn. And so you're not going to convince the kid at Tigard that, oh, we're different today than we were yesterday because we put out a letter, right? But I think our job is to, in my opinion, is to focus on our children. And as long as they know they're being supported by us, I can't help how that influences someone outside of this community and outside of this district. Right now, we would hope that they would feel welcome because I think we have a community full of great people. And sometimes you just don't get it, right? History or whatever it may be, it just carries itself. But I'd be more than happy to go read and attend assemblies or student events or whatever it may be to make sure it got there. So I'm in support of the letter. I don't want it to come across that way, but I think I just want to make sure it reaches the hands that we talk about it reaching. So.
All right, one last thing to that. I really appreciate that offer. And it could be that there is a student group that would love, I mean, you talked about listening sessions and you're going to host one for the community. There's also this opportunity to have a listening session with a group of 10 students who represent a club or a group. And I'm thinking our LGBTQ club, our MACHA club, some of our Black Student Union Club that may want or may appreciate a visit from a board member to accompany this letter and say, here was our intent with this, that we want you to know at the highest level of decision making, you have our support. And we know that you don't interact with us directly, but we're going to look out for you. And there's decisions we make with that lens in mind, with that mindset and that commitment in mind. And you have a lot of other adults all along the way in between you and us. But you need to know that we're a school board that's going to have that as a priority. And I'm here today. And, what questions do you have for me as a student to a school board member about this letter or anything else? And it could become some small listening sessions you do with students. I'm not suggesting more work for you, but I guess I am.
I'll say one last thing and then I'll let it go. But I appreciate you wanting to hit the LGBTQ and the Black groups and whatnot, Black student groups. But I'd also caution us to be careful about that. That's about 5 students. The reality is our district is not very diverse. We need our white friends to hear this message and to buy into it. The old groups already know what they want and need. We need to get that into other hands so that they can say, oh man, I didn't even think that you weren't feeling included. Now we might be able to change our behavior to say, hey, I acknowledge you, I see you. So I would rather the letter go to the masses rather than the groups that don't feel included or feel oppressed or feel some type of way, right? That's only a handful of people in this community. The bigger community needs to be influenced because that's where the change is really going to happen.
Yeah. And I wasn't saying either or, I was saying and. Yeah, send it out to all of these. And to your point, when you said, how do some of the students who may want to hear it get it heard? And that's why I was suggesting we have some of these small groups that are set up that perhaps that was where you were leaning towards is, I want to make sure some other kids hear it too. And so I was suggesting we already have those groups. Yeah, it was not an either or, it was definitely an and. I think we're both on the same page.
And if I may, just echo a couple of the things that I'm hearing you say, Director Taylor, because I think that they're important, and that is that we do need everybody bought into it, the majority. That's crucial. And also, we want to be transparent that, what we say we're doing, the purpose of the letter is really the purpose of the letter, and that we're disseminating it to those audiences with that intent. So thank you for those comments.
Because not everybody's going to receive this letter well.
Mhm.
I mean, it seems like it's the right thing to do, but it's not going to be received by everybody in this community well. And so you need to be prepared for that. And so I just want to caution everybody for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it does. Yeah. Open the door for further response. Mhm. Okay, so we have the wordsmithing done for the draft, and we've also talked about sort of the purpose and potential consequences of the letter. So with that, are folks still feeling like we're good? No. Okay. Yes. All right. I'm seeing nods. Okay. Thank you. So we'll move on to the agenda item that was added at the beginning of the night by Director Wyatt, and this is new business around change in the calendar. And I'll hand it to you.
Thank you. So over the weekend, I learned that some districts are providing, I think what some of them are calling would be respite days, or a recognition of how incredibly hard our teachers and staff are working during this school year, really trying to get our kids to feel like they're returning to school normally. And I feel like I've seen firsthand my kids' teachers working incredibly hard to just make the start of school successful. And so I wanted to see if there was a willingness to make a calendar change to make Friday, November 12th a non-instructional day. Thursday, November 11th is a holiday. And so it's unique, I guess, that students will have a day off in the middle of the week and then return to school on a Friday. And so I'm wondering if, in the spirit of really giving staff and teachers a day off to recharge and reflect as a way to thank and honor their work, we could make that calendar change. Dr. Ludwig has indicated that there are some anticipated staffing issues potentially already arising, given that there's a midweek holiday and then a return for one day. But this idea of adding a day of respite, I think, could be really beneficial for the wellness of our teachers and staff. And so would love to hear your thoughts on that. I had a couple of questions that I could pose that I think might be coming to mind for you. And so the first thing is how this would affect our instructional day count, and then how we would communicate this out to our community adequately, given that it is next week. And so perhaps Dr. Ludwig could answer or speak to those questions and any other questions that you have. But I think it would be, again, just a way to recognize how incredibly hard our teachers and staff have been working, and the fact that next week is a little abnormal given the midweek holiday. Thank you.
Do you want me to take questions as they come, or do you want to have more discussion? And then I'm just noting those questions and I can.
Yeah, I think what I'd probably like to do is gauge the interest by seeing if we have a motion in a second before, because this isn't going to involve a calendar change, right? So it'll be board action. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had the motion in the second to get it on the agenda, but we have a motion right now. Did you state the motion? clearly, and then we can see if there's a second, then we can have the discussion.
I move that we adjust the school calendar to make Friday, November 12th a non-instructional day.
Director Wyatt has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I have questions. Oh, do we have to have a?
Typically, we do. I mean, just if we're going to follow Robert's rules really
Oh,
strictly, then we
okay.
do. And I certainly in my board tenureship have seconded motions and then voted however I wanted to after the discussion. So, all right, would you like to second so that we
No,
can
I
have a
second to
discussion?
get it on the
Yeah.
agenda to hear it. So I'm gonna let some other board member step up and second for something.
Okay. And the second just allows us to have discussion and to ask questions. And then, because if there's no second and there's only one board member who actually wants to do something, if we don't have a second, then there's no reason to have a discussion. So the second means that there's at least a will to discuss. And so that's why we ask for a second.
Okay, so I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Director Sloop, and we can have discussion.
I'm going back to when we made a calendar change at the beginning of the year and how much work that took to make a change at the beginning of the year when we're coming out of the summer months leading up to trying to make a change. And now we're making a change, potential change, well, 10 days in advance or 11 days in advance. So I guess my questions are, do the same concerns that existed when we tried to make a change from the summer coming into a starting day, which was based around vacationing and all these other things. Do those same kind of concerns exist with this? And then what is the effect on the budget? What is the effect on the teacher's contract? What is the effect on all of the things that took into consideration for the change at the beginning of the year? And then we also had a change for Juneteenth, which was a new federal holiday that was announced. And then that put us in a situation, but that's a new federal holiday, which I get it, right? But now we're making a change for a wellness day, which I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with. I'm also thinking about community feedback, whether the staff, contracts, teachers union, all the different moving pieces for that. And so I guess, is it possible to make a change for it with all of those different moving pieces, and how does that affect our budget and things like that? So I don't know. Those are just things that are coming to my head initially, since this was my first hearing about it. So those are just questions that I have.
Yeah, so I think it depends on what you're intending to do with this day. And maybe the motion needs to have more clarity in it. We could work with that. If you are intending to have a non-instructional day on the 12th, but replace that instructional day somewhere else in the calendar, for example, in June, then we are looking at engaging classified and certified staff, because you've now moved something to later in June, and we would engage our licensed staff in that decision, which would take time. And what I'm hearing from everybody is this is coming up soon, and we may not have that type of time, and then to inform the community. If you're in your motion are saying we're declaring this a non-instructional day and we don't intend to make up that instruction, meaning right now there's 175 days for high school, you're changing it to 174. or 173 days in middle and primary school, and you're changing it to 172. You can make that change if you're not, and I'm going to invite our HR director to probably come up to the microphone here just in case. She's going to keep me on track here. It would not need to go to the associations for deliberation or feedback, because you get to make decision about the calendar. You are accountable, we are accountable to the state instructional hours. What does that do to have 6 hours, 6.5 hours less of instruction for primary, middle, and high? Do we still meet the minimum that's required? And yes, we do. So you have that flexibility in the calendar to have this become a non-instructional day. So I've tried to answer a couple questions in there at once. So it's a little different than what we were looking at with our previous calendar change that involved moving and adjusting days a week and moving things from August, September to June was different than just saying the calendar is set in terms of our expectations of staff, except that now this is going to be a non-instructional day. And my understanding is we can make that without, you can make that decision without us having to check with the associations.
Correct. We would only have to check with the associations if we then added the calendar day at the end of June. We'd have to then negotiate that.
Gotcha. I have another question. Sorry.
Okay.
And I'm only asking these questions because I'm just learning of this change. And so I would have asked all these questions in a private environment, but now I'm in a public environment, so I'm asking. So my other thought is, although, you know, we might support staff having a day off, and I'm all for that. I'm thinking about how does that make families adjust who have corporate jobs, who may not have childcare, who may not have all that, because that's another backlash that we're going to get as board members, even though we're supporting staff and we're making a concession there to be, you know, cognizant of their mental well-being and how hard they're working, and we love them. I'm thinking about the thousands of families that now have to make adjustments for childcare who may not be able to afford it. And many of us can, but some of us can't, right? So I'm just thinking about all of those moving pieces. And so, and obviously that's just something for us to consider as a board. You know, is it better to support 200 staff versus 2,000 families, or you say, so that's what that's what I'm thinking about. And so I don't know what the answer to that is, but you can continue. That's just my concern.
Director Sloop and Director and Vice Chair Thompson with your finger. Would you like to jump in?
Going to reiterate, I think with the timing of everything and families planning on their kids being in school, and then 10 days out or however many days next Friday is, having to cover having their kids at home could be a hardship on our families. And then I feel that kids probably just want to be in school. And is there another option we could do, like doing a special lunch for them or something on that day, instead of just giving them the day off? Would just be my thought.
Or yeah,
When I
make
okay,
it, yeah.
please.
I love the spirit of honoring our teachers and of making and of giving them that. But I share some of the similar concerns, I think, with the date so quickly approaching, thinking about our families and how they might need to scramble to provide care. Also, just, we all know, we've heard no school November, you know, that's that phrase that we hear about. And then to take away another instructional day in November, I think can be frustrating to our families. Again, I think especially at this late time. Also, as a former teacher who would plan out, as a biology teacher, I would have already had my lesson plans ready to go for next Friday. And sometimes then not having that opportunity, that can throw your lesson plans off. So just thinking from a teacher standpoint, and just thinking about the last year and a half that our families have gone through and the excitement that our kids and families have for being back in school. I want to give them as many in-school instruction hours as possible. So those are my thoughts just for, and again, I love the spirit of, hey, we want our teachers to feel valued. We want them to know that we care about them, and we want to acknowledge that we know they're working hard and that we know last year was a hard year. So my not being supportive of this has nothing to do with my not being supportive of teachers or not valuing the good work they do, just considering all of the things that I think play into this and feeling like it's just not, the timing isn't what it needs to be.
Is there another day or that maybe that isn't approaching so fast that that could be considered? That gives people more time to adjust. I understand like the Thursday, then the Friday kind of combo could make a lot of sense for an extended weekend. But we are approaching winter break also, right? So, I mean, and for those who celebrate Thanksgiving, and so there's going to be a lot of days off for decompression and a lot of overeating and over everything else. But
I'm hearing, I'm hearing concern, and I know that you had some things to say, Dr. Ludwig, so go ahead.
Yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier because it was one of the questions that Director Wyatt had when she said instructional hours, but also made a comment about the impact that staff is having this year that is unique to a combination of some factors, the pandemic, as well as the vaccination status. We do have a substitute teacher shortage. We have a licensed teacher shortage. We still have not filled about 2 or 3 of our, probably about half a dozen of our classified staff postings. People just aren't applying. You're seeing it everywhere across the state. People are scrambling for employees. And that has definitely hit the world of education. And the way it's playing out, and it may not be this way in June, it may not be this way in January, but it certainly has happened since the first day of school until now, is that we have a substitute shortage. And so that means even though you remember I told you we had hired our own 18 permanent substitutes. That means if there's 1 teacher out in each building, and then there's 2 for the high school, and then we hired 1 dual language substitute teacher so that any of the dual language classrooms, primary, middle, high, could have a bilingual educator fill in for them. Even with that group, we are short teachers every day in this district. So teachers are giving up their prep time to teach for someone else in the high school every day. You can see nods by our principals. Principals are filling in for classroom teachers almost daily. The district office staff is now filling in for teachers. We did that last week, and because we're licensed staff, we've made ourselves available. So that's part of the all hands on deck strain that is not unique to us, but it's happening in every school district in Oregon. I think Beaverton said they were 400 substitutes short and we certainly don't have a number that large, but proportionately, it's the same for us. October 18th and the requirement for vaccination did prompt a number of substitute teachers to remove their names from the roll. Not whether we don't know whether they agreed with it or not, but it could have just been, I'm a retired teacher anyway. This is getting complicated. I think I'm just going to do something else. It has been a strain and a challenge every day. Last week, there was a middle school, as I was going around, that said we have 6 teachers out and we don't have subs for them. And so other staff filled in for those vacancies. So it's just a dynamic that probably will not happen again, but it's happening right now. And it may not be as much of a strain in January or May or June. So what's happening is that there are boards and administrators that are saying, given this additional stress, where do you put some relief in the system when it feels like it's all hands on deck every day, and we don't know every day, you know, if we're going to have a full staff. So the only reason that I believe Director White, as we were talking about this, and she said, I'm hearing this is happening, is our staff feeling this same pressure? And I said, yes, and I appreciate you asking. It's every morning the principals wake up wondering if they're going to have enough teachers that day and subs. The unique thing about November 12th is that it comes in between a holiday and a weekend, and we already have 23 teachers that are not planning to be there that day. They've taken the day for whatever legitimate reasons they can. And sometimes when a day is positioned like that, it feels like it's more convenient to get some things done or travel somewhere. And we have already a dozen paraeducators who are not going to be able to come. That number will likely grow. We don't know by how much, but it certainly won't stay the same between now and then. So there's a wonder, you know, what will that 12th look like as we fill positions when there's ordinary days that we're all hands on deck. And now we've got that very unique kind of Friday that's in there. Is that a day that we may struggle? Already we're nervous about filling every classroom. And is that was why it was a day when Director Wyatt asked, I'm hearing this strain, is there a day that we could think about wellness? And that was a day that some other districts are thinking about. And it was a day that I posed as well.
Okay. And this will be my last question, I believe.
Yeah.
Do you feel, and this is just a direct question, as a CEO of this district, do you feel like your staff need a day off, one, or are you considering this day as a day off because of the vaccination and the lack of people that may be there on a Friday? So the pressure is mounting for who may or may not show up, because we all can take a sick day if we choose to. And if that's coordinated throughout teachers in the district who talk, and now the district is short because it's a day after a holiday and it's their right because they have vacation days and time off and comp days or whatever it may be. And now that puts the district in the bind as a whole, right? So is it that we're doing it and you feel like the staff just needs a day off? Or are we doing this because we see that there's already people starting to put in their time off, and now we feel pressured that we're going to not be able to fill it from a substitute standpoint, not be able to have enough staff, which means more pressure for our principals and ADs and whoever else, right? And so I just really want to understand, if you feel like they need a day off, I support you and I would vote for it. If we're doing this just because we're feeling the pressure of the current environment, then I have reservations.
So first, I would say there's no negative presumption on my part around why staff need a day or choosing to take a day. I just don't believe that about who they are. They're doing incredibly heroic work. They're very aware of what last year, what that experience was for students, and they're working even extra hard to assess where students are, going above and beyond to provide targeted instruction. We've got teachers who are working outside their day to meet students to help them get caught up. The care and connection, they're taking it incredibly seriously. So there's no, I wouldn't even go to that place of staff are trying to take a day. So this is not about that. This is recognizing that under any calendar year, staff take days here or there. Friday and Monday tend to be sometimes our most frequent days. That's in every organization, because you can accomplish some things for your family that sometimes building off of a weekend allow for. That's just statistics. And when we look at the days of the calendar where we have more substitutes than any other, they tend to fall in some of those areas. That's probably, it's not unique to our district. It's not unique to most working organizations, that a Monday and a Friday are sometimes vulnerable to that. In addition to something that falls next to, a holiday, it just gives a natural kind of move in that direction. We have families already indicating, my child's probably not going to come to school on Friday, because if they're not on Thursday and we've got the weekend, we might use it as an opportunity. So that starts to happen. It doesn't mean we can't hold school. And whatever direction this is, if we have school on Friday, we're going to make it work. It'll be a scramble, which I'm just telling you already, our normal days are a scramble. And now we see this very unique situation in the calendar that we couldn't have predicted back in May or April when we were adopting this. It wasn't even on my radar in August that this is where we might be. But the lack of teachers and substitutes has taken such a dramatic toll on this state that we're all living in it, compounded with the vaccination requirement for every substitute teacher to be vaccinated has decreased the statewide pool of substitutes. So we're just in a unique place that we couldn't have predicted with this calendar, compounded with, do we think some teachers are going to take off on Friday? Sure, that statistically happens, and some paraeducators, and maybe some others, an assistant principal might, IC might, several counselors might. What does that start to do to an already, when you think about a rubber band that's stretched, a system? Do I believe the staff could benefit from a day of wellness? Yes.
Then I support it.
And I wouldn't say that under ordinary years, because I think we do a lot. We could do a lot to adjust, the way we kind of move with things and our expectations to provide some give, and we do that all the time. We're just in this place of the strain of going into this year with COVID still with us, is just some unique dynamics that are just very present. So I think they would definitely benefit from it. I think even though we have that Thanksgiving week, staff is going to be working Monday and Tuesday. Even though students are off, they're committed to working that Monday and Tuesday and bringing their best work and their professional selves. So it's not one or the other, because I'm also very cognizant of the strain in the system. And I do hold that here in wonder and hope that if we didn't have that 12th if we had it as an instructional day, we'd be really working hard to make sure we could have somebody in every classroom.
Well, I just say,
So
you're the leader of your staff, your organization, this district. And if you feel like your people need that, then I support you 100%. And I support taking the 12th off. I know it'll put some families in a situation, but I think what you say has a lot of value, and I respect your leadership. So I can support that because you feel your staff needs the day off, not because we as a board feel that we should give a kumbaya day. So I back that.
Said as well that families have already contacted the schools and said that they're planning on keeping their kids, or they're not going to school that day as well.
could you ask that again, Director Sloop?
That families have contacted the district and say that their kids will not be attending school on the 12th as well.
I don't have a number for you, but we've heard from families and we've heard from staff that just the uniqueness of where that day lands provides for both groups have indicated opportunities that they may either request for their day, which they can as staff, off, or for a medical reason or something that's occurring with their family. And that some families have also indicated, look, we're not sure our child's going to be there. We're going to take advantage of this day and this weekend. But we haven't polled anybody. We don't know what that number is. We have some pre-numbers already on staff just because some have submitted early about their indications, but staff have between now and the 12th to continue to request substitutes. So
we certainly know that all industries have been suffering from staffing shortages, and that the education system as a whole has been under really incredible strain for a long time. It's not my desire to squeeze productivity out of human beings. So in that sense, I support easing the strain on the system. And I also find that the most compelling argument is the logistical challenges. It's the one that will resonate most broadly with folks, that there's just a real staffing shortage that's going to make that Friday that's couched between a Thursday off and a weekend very difficult to staff. My hesitation with the decision is two things. One is just because often we needed to add it to the agenda because it's timely, and often that means that we make these decisions with it feels like a bit in a vacuum. Like I don't have opportunity to hear from the public. I'm like looking at faces of administrators, like trying to hear the voices of staff and teachers in my head, because I don't have their input. But I rely on yours because you have your finger on the pulse of the system. And so I think what I'm hearing is that you do see that this is a good idea and that it could be recommended. We could certainly make it happen, and we would, because we're West Linn-Wilsonville, we'd make it happen. But that easing the system, I have a little concern, like, what does this do for us long term? So, we can ease the system right now, but does this remedy anything long term? So that's one concern. And then my kids are teenagers. They'll love to have a day to sleep in, and I won't have to supervise them. But families with young kids, will there be an option for them? They have to go to work. They have young kids. Are we going to provide any option for families that are working that have young kids in the home?
So if we're making a non-instructional day and staff is not working, then staff wouldn't be there to do that. But we do have, the childcare contractors. Often when these things come in plenty of time, they will step up, and on days when we don't have instruction, they often provide a full day and some activities that go with that. So I think those agencies that we know use our facilities will likely do that. I'm just going to look over at our assistant superintendent that they often step up and do that. I don't know about other families, other childcare agencies that they work with, whether they'd be able to offer that. So, but if you're asking, would our staff not instruct and then replace that with childcare, that would not be the purpose of having a wellness day, to replace instruction with childcare.
There any further discussion or questions? Okay, if not, we can call the vote.
Kirsten Wyatt.
Yes.
Christy Thompson.
No.
Kelsey King.
It's really hard. I wish I had more data. I honestly don't know, and I cannot abstain. Aye.
Liz Taylor. Kelly Slew.
Guess it doesn't matter. No, yeah,
Aye. Motion passes.
And I think this is a good indicator also that while we, according to Robert's rules, can add agenda items, and sometimes we do need to because of the timeliness of them, that it does make the decision-making a little more arduous. And so something just to keep in mind as we operate as a board, that we don't make it standard practice to add agenda items, if at all possible, at the beginning of a meeting.
And if I could just quickly say, I did not mean to put all of you into that situation. I just saw this headline from another school district over the weekend. And so it was not intended to be, to create obstruction or frustration. So thank you all for entertaining it at this late date.
Dr. Ludwig, the communication to the public is now of paramount importance.
We will work on it first thing in the morning.
So we will just take a look at these important dates, and then we'll be adjourned. So I think, yeah, we just have our next regular meeting on December 6th, and you don't need me to read the rest of the dates there, but that's the next time we'll be together. We canceled our work session so that we could do the school walkthroughs.
Excuse me, Chair King. Right before we added a discussion needed on your agenda, we need a special board meeting in December.
Okay, so this was a December 13th at noon option, if my memory is serving me correctly.
That was a proposal.
And that was a special meeting with one topic.
This is for a bond resolution. And unfortunately, it won't be ready for December 6th. Otherwise, we'd bring it to you on the 6th. There's just the timing of some of these processes.
That's fine. So we just need to know if we have a quorum present for a special meeting on December 13th at noon. I can be present.
Is it on Zoom?
Do it on Zoom. And this is a resolution to approve a contract.
That's correct. This will be a construction contract that the bid opening won't be opened in time to prepare it for the December 6th meeting.
Okay, so we don't have to necessarily, we just need to know if we have a quorum present. Okay, we've got director. Okay, we're good. We can add that to the agenda. Thank you. And we're adjourned.